Tommy Boyd on BBC Southern Counties Radio.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the show. Tommy Boyd here, and Alison Fearns over there.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well. How are
Had a
you?
good week? Yeah, I'm very well indeed, thank you.
I think I'm looking intelligent this evening.
Yeah, you got your contact lenses out.
Yes, got my new glasses on.
They work for me.
You think?
I always like women in glasses. I don't know why.
Oh, really?
I'm not going there because we've got a big agenda on the show tonight. We'll go to why I like women with glasses another time.
Good, we'll save that.
We've got something much less important than that to discover.
What's that then?
The truth behind Star Trek. Now, hold your horses. I know you're not a fan.
Oh, no, not at all.
I know it does nothing for you at all.
I always get confused. Star Trek and Star Wars.
Oh, God.
Sorry, I do that. I've never watched either, and I get it all confused. Who's got the Klingons?
You're going...
Sorry, I'm being honest. I don't know.
And that's why, actually, you're going to be of great use during the next, the next hour or more, or maybe a couple of hours. We'll see how far we get with this. Because I have grown up with Star Trek. I think I saw all the episodes of the first series, probably at least twice, because there wasn't a lot else on, and actually because I liked it, because it was great escapist fun, and it suited lads. I'm not at all surprised that girls couldn't quite see what all the fuss was about. But then what happened was I moved on and I became, I studied proper literature, Shakespeare and Salinger, and worked in investigative journalism, and I left it behind. But then my boys started to watch it.
Yeah.
Well, not Star Trek, but the sort of latest incarnations, things called Andromeda and Deep Space Nine. You've never heard of them, have you?
I did. I've heard of Deep Space Nine because I once met someone at a party who used to go to Deep Space Nine conventions.
We won't be asking you any quiz questions tonight.
No.
Okay, but that's fine. But what you can do, I think, is be a very impartial mediator in this discussion. In other words, if you think that I've got it wrong, you say so.
Yeah.
And if you think that people who don't quite get my point about Star Trek...
Yeah, so what is
have
your
not.
point?
Well, I'll get to that in just a second, because what happened was my boys were watching these things and they said to me, "Hey Dad, this is great." And I said, "No, it's not. It's not as good as the original." The original was a very thoughtful, cerebral, intelligent, occasionally action-packed vision of a better future. A future where understanding and peace and care for all cultures, racial types, aliens, was extended by the powers that be, at least in the United Federation of Planets, which is where our boys were.
The United Federation of Planets.
Yeah.
This is geeky stuff, isn't it?
Now, I enjoyed it when I was a teenager. It started up in the mid-60s, around about the time that rock music really got going, and it was all kind of part of that liberation of youth thing. But what I did was this: I revisited some of my old tapes. I've only got a few, I'm not sad. And I looked at these old Star Wars episodes all over again and realised what I was watching. And I realised that I wasn't watching a vision of the future in which all types of race, all types of gender, all types of age, all types of religion, cultural preferences were tolerated, if not indeed cherished. I was watching white supremacists in space.
What?
I was watching propaganda.
Do you think you're reading a little bit too much into it?
Absolutely not. You've got to remember that in the mid-60s, the Cold War was at its height, and the United States was engaged in war in Vietnam.
Yeah.
I mean, the stakes were very, very high, and anything that could be used to advance their cause was put into harness. And this TV show got off the ground in the first place because the people who made it were able to persuade the studios, who didn't want to do sci-fi, that what they could actually do was show that in 200 years' time, the United States would have defeated Russia, the United States would have defeated China, and these were the two big arch enemies of the United States at the time.
Yeah.
But not only that, they would be continuing their fight against ethnic minorities in the form of the aliens, one of whom you've just mentioned.
What?
The Klingons. Please don't laugh.
I'm sorry, Tommy. I do
Please
think,
don't laugh.
no, I do think you're reading far
Please
too
don't
much
laugh.
into this.
Well, we will see. I'm quite happy to take calls on this from the many people who need to have the scales lifted from their eyes on just what Star Trek was. Now, I don't think Star Trek has done any enduring harm yet, okay? But when you look at recent American foreign policy, which has been that Iraq, quite simply, needed to be taught a lesson, needed to become a little bit more like America, needed to have elections, needed to conduct themselves in the way that Americans like to believe they conduct themselves. When you look at what their foreign policy has become, when you see how media-orientated it is, you realise that there must be an awful lot of young Americans, middle-aged Americans, and Americans in the White House and the Pentagon who believe that the simple solutions to the kind of conflicts that occur in Star Trek are probably the best course of action in the 21st century.
No.
So my concerns are that the seed of thought that's been planted in the minds of the men who are now running the greatest superpower the world has ever known, okay?
Yeah.
That seed is that Arabs and Asians are people who need to be monitored, governments need to be monitored very carefully, and if they aren't behaving correctly, which primarily means in a subjugated way as far as the United States are concerned, then the United States swings to and arms its photon torpedoes. You don't know what I'm talking about now, do you?
What on earth are you on about?
There's so many parallels between the war in Iraq and a typical episode of Star Trek.
You think
I think
that George Bush
has
based his foreign policy on episodes of Star Trek?
something along those lines. Certainly, it certainly helped the American people to support what in a sense has been a ludicrous television war. 08459570057. Listen, I'm going to address people listening across the south of England first of all, and say that if you want to call the switchboard and join the conversation, please feel free. You can text us from inside the United Kingdom, 07786 20 70 70. I'll repeat those numbers in just a second. You can email us. My address is tommy.boyd@bbc.co.uk. If you want to be on the show, we will call you back, so we'll pay for the call, wherever you're calling from. This is for new listeners, because I know that a bit's gone out on the internet about what we're doing this evening, the discussion that we're having this evening. Bear in mind, it's primarily a current affairs discussion, but it's also big on media, and in particular, this gigantic family of enterprises, which is Star Trek. 08459570057 to get through to the switchboard now. Or, if you want to email me your telephone number and the point that you want to make, and it doesn't matter where you're listening to this on planet Earth, okay, we will call you back.
Planet Earth, you're getting into the whole Star Trek thing, aren't you? Wherever you are on planet Earth.
I've had it passed on to me that there are people who know us from 27 countries who are quite amused by the idea that, that we're going to be discussing this in this way, in this refined, civilized and cultural country that we are, and a lot of them are in the United States, and a lot of them have already said that they'd like to tell me just why I've got it all wrong. There's one other thing I want to add, and this is really important. It's now 10:10 p.m. GMT. I believe Eastern Standard Time it's 5:10 in the afternoon, and if you're listening Pacific Time, I believe it's middle of the afternoon, 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. The point I want to make is this: in 50 minutes or so it doesn't matter where you're listening, I don't have to tell you what time it's going to be, it's about 50 minutes from now, I want to lift the lid on some original research that has just been completed into an aspect of Star Trek which I think will, quite frankly, shock the majority of people listening, and certainly every single Trekkie who is listening, because it is quite mind-blowing. But when you confront people like Star Trek fans with a new piece of information, I've got a suspicion that they're going to say, well, we already knew that.
So where have you got this research from?
It's original. Totally original. Because bear in mind that for 15 years I was an investigative journalist, albeit working on slightly more meritorious problems, such as the Middle East, the Northern Ireland situation, and industrial strife in this country. So I know how to winkle out facts. I didn't think that I'd ever be spending some time winkling out facts about Star Trek, but boy have I got a couple of absolute Lulus. But I suspect that when they're confronted with this information, rather than say, yes, we're hanged by the neck until dead, the average Star Trek fan will say, well, we knew that. So, although this is going to be difficult to work for them, if you think you know what it might be that I'm going to reveal...
What?
Email me in advance. Otherwise, you will have heard it first here on this show, coming from the United Kingdom tonight. So go ahead. If you think you know what it is I'm likely to reveal, which is quite shocking, and I have to say unproven, but nevertheless very intriguing. I mean, it's unproven as in, did Lee Harvey Oswald shoot Kennedy acting alone? I think unproven. Did America go to the moon in 1969? I think they probably did, but, you know, it's kind of unproven. What I have for you in an hour's time is unproven in the same way, but I think it's going to make an awful lot of people want to go and do some original research, who think that Star Trek is just a bit of fun. I mean, one Star Trek site that I went to had this to say about the man who invented Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry. It said, Gene Roddenberry is a man whose contribution to the 20th century is greater than that of Martin Luther King and John F. Kennedy. Now do you see what I'm up against?
Well, I think people do get a bit obsessive about Star Trek, don't they?
Yeah.
But if they want to have their little bit of fun, why are you trying to ruin it for them? You know, I just think you're reading too much into it. I think it is just a bit of harmless fun, really.
I'll go through it with you bit by bit, stage by stage, and I know that there's an awful lot of people quite high up in the Star Trek hierarchy. Even, I believe, the Roddenberry family themselves are being kept in touch with the way this debate is going on in England this evening. But I'll take you through it, and you tell me if it's nonsense. And you tell me if you agree, a little bit later on, when we've uncovered some new facts, that Star Trek might just be a threat to world peace. Yeah?
I think it's a bit strong.
All right, okay.
Star Trek is a threat to world peace.
It'll be the cause of the Third World War.
What?
No, you're getting married soon. You want to have children. You want to have family. You want the world to be a happy place.
Yeah.
You don't want the sky to be lit red with the exhausts of intercontinental ballistic missiles flying across your house, hopefully. Landing on your house, let's hope not. But that is the future. If we don't pay vigilant attention to absolutely every aspect of anything that might be a threat to peace. That's what I'm saying. Okay?
So you want to see Star Trek banned?
Yeah. Banned. The whole thing taken away. Gone.
I wouldn't have thought you were someone that was for censorship in that way.
Well, as the evening unfolds, would you, I'm not making any comparisons between Star Trek and fascism, but would you have banned Mein Kampf?
I just think it's just Star Trek.
Would you have banned Mein Kampf?
I just think that, I mean, I've never watched a whole episode.
Would you have banned Mein Kampf? Or as the gay guy, I believe in the producers, believes it's actually called Me in Camp F.
I'd have banned Me in Camp F.
Me in Camp F. Okay.
I just don't think you can compare the two things.
We'll see. A reminder of our contact details, 08459 570057. That's the main line through to the switchboard. You can text us. I don't know how you do this if you want to do it internationally, but for UK citizens, 07786 20 70 70, 07786 20 70 70. But I think an important source of contact this evening is going to be the email system and the internet. So my address once again is Tommy, Tommy, Boyd, BOYD, at bbc.co.uk. I just don't know what to do with myself. That's Dusty Springfield on BBC Southern Counties Radio with myself, Tommy Boyd, and Alison Ferns. And this evening we'll be travelling all over the place with our conversation, but it will, the main theme, which we will stay with, is Star Trek and why it really is about time that we put a stop to the whole thing and banned it, or at least see it for what it is. We've got, you can call the show 08459 570057, or if you'd like to comment on the show, you can either send me an email telling me what you think, or you can send me an email with your home phone number or mobile phone number, and we will call you back and put you on the show. If you're new to this radio station and show, it is a very gentle experience. Nobody interrupts anybody. Nobody talks over anybody. Everybody is allowed to say exactly what they want to say, and nobody cuts anybody off. And Chris is our first caller, and he's in Leeds this evening. Hello, Chris.
Hi, Tommy. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Yourself, sir?
Yeah, not too bad for a Saturday evening, thank you.
Good. What's your take on Star Trek, then?
Well, to be honest, Tommy, I think that Star Trek has been a very beneficial thing for society. I mean, you've branded it, certainly from what I can see from your website and from your previous shows, as something that's largely irrelevant, but there are a number of public figures who have been major contributors to society that have said that Star Trek has inspired them to get where they are today. Oh, really? I did not know that, such as? Well, I mean, it's obviously not someone who was inspired at an early age, but someone who said it was the continuing inspiration to him was Dr. Martin Luther King, who was obviously the leader of the civil rights movement. Leading quantum physicist, Professor Stephen Hawking, another gentleman who says that Star Trek inspired him as a child to grow up and do what he did. Dr. Mae Jemison, who was the first non-white woman into space, who has been a philanthropist and a spearheader of charities in third world countries, has said that, again, what she did was in large part thanks to encouragement from Star Trek. Well, I'm not surprised that a cosmologist and somebody who went up in space as a passenger thought that Star Trek was pretty good. I'm surprised Martin Luther King was a fan. I think it's because Martin Luther King looked in the 60s, sure you watched yourself, at the bridge of the Enterprise and saw, I mean, well, as you said earlier, you said that you believed that what was shown was China and Russia being subjugated by the US, and that was the future that was shown on Star Trek. Well, in fact, Star Trek never made mention of that, but did show an African woman on the bridge of the Enterprise, a black woman, a Chinese person at a time when China obviously was an enemy, and a Russian gentleman at the height of the Cold War. So I believe that... Yeah, but they were being bossed by a WASP, a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, an all-American boy. He was in charge. There wasn't a Russian on the deck, and they were speaking American. Again, true. And the black lady was... Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. The black lady was, let's face it, eye candy. Why was she 3 feet higher on the deck than everybody else? Why did they build a special bit so she was 3 feet higher? Actually, I think you'll find she was on the same level as the rest of the crew. No, because you couldn't see the rest of the crew's legs. No, the rest of the crew weren't wearing miniskirts. That's my point. Thank you. Oh, well, at the same time, Gene Roddenberry said that whilst he did make a sex symbol out of the woman on the bridge, he made a sex symbol out of the all-white American captain, too. But speaking back to your point as regards... She said she only got the job because... She said. Nichelle Nichols, I think her name is. She said she only got the job because she was having an affair with the creator of the series. Well, I've yet to see that in print, that she's admitted to that, but... Well, yeah, I have, but I see what your point is. That's not to say it's true. Okay. But, I mean, returning back to your point about how they were led by a white supremacist, I think you'll find that in time since, Star Trek has been shown, certainly there have been shows that people have been led by a Frenchman, Jean-Luc Picard, they've been led by a black man, they've been led by a number of different representatives. Well, the most prominent black actor on the series plays a Klingon. Who would that be? Worf. Yeah. Oh, so one of the most prominent black actors was the captain of Deep Space Nine. He was a black African-American man who was not afraid of his heritage. You're getting into the sort of grandchildren of Star Trek now, and quite frankly, they don't have the same profile as the original series, which had a greater profile than the Next Generation. These things that are knocking around now, you know, it's like Friends in space. Well, I mean, let's say then, obviously, that they were led by a white supremacist in your view on the original show. I think I don't mean to interrupt, but that's not my point. They weren't led by a white supremacist. They were led by somebody who represented the American ideal of the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. And when you went around the Starship Enterprise, this was something that struck me. Mm-hmm. This is a vision of the future. And yet there were... I can't ever remember seeing a black crewman. I can remember seeing multiple black crewmen, actually, in various positions. In fact, Captain Kirk was actually bossed around on a number of occasions by a member of the governing body of Starfleet, if you like, who was black.
Yeah, I don't remember that. You noticed it, did you?
I did.
Why did you notice it?
Because I realised what was happening on the show was that Gene Roddenberry was trying to make a point by putting in ethnic minorities. And let's face it, if Gene Roddenberry had put a black captain in command or some kind of person who wasn't representing, you know, a white American, if he tried to put an ethnic minority up there, the show would never have got on there.
Now you're getting interesting now, you see, because what you're saying is that there was some interference from external sources in the content of the show. Who were they?
I would say presumably network censors. People in America who censor TV programs before they go on the air.
I'm really grateful you called. I want to say this to you, keep listening, because I've got something to reveal in about half an hour that I think will get you thinking about the people behind the scenes working on Star Trek.
Okay, well, thank you for talking.
Thanks, Chris. 08459570057. He was a very nice man. Well done there, Alison, because you're doing two jobs here I need to explain to people listening, which is, who are new to the show, which is that you co-present the show and you also produce it and you do the behind the scenes and you work your socks off, basically.
Yes.
Even though you were at a party until 3 o'clock in the morning last night.
Yeah, I was overdo it last night, but I'm feeling fine now.
You look great, yeah.
Thank you.
And the glasses are still working for me.
Good.
Yeah.
I tell you what, this is all new to me.
Yes.
I really just thought that Star Trek, if I'm honest, was just a programme for perhaps geeky people.
Well, geeky people like it, but that's not to say that it's just for them.
But I never realised all this other stuff.
My point, I think, hangs a lot on symbolism.
Yeah.
Metaphor. Hidden meaning. Symbolism in literature is an essential tool, isn't it? Everything has to represent something else.
Yeah.
And there's a great deal of symbolism in science fiction. For a whole load of reasons. Partly because it pulls you back into your own life. Otherwise, a piece of science fiction set 10,000 years in the future would be totally irrelevant, wouldn't it? Why should you care? It's got nothing to do with you. But if you populate your science fiction with symbols, metaphors, hidden meanings, messages for you about your life as you're living it now, your hopes and aspirations, your world as it might be in 10 years' time, never mind about 200 years' time, then it becomes relevant, even at a subliminal level. And it's the symbols and the metaphors in Star Trek that concern me. And I don't believe all of them were put there purely for entertainment purposes. And I'm very serious about this. Very serious. 08459570057 is the number. We'll take another tune in just a moment. John in Hailsham says, the world has gone mad. I find myself agreeing with T. Boyd. Ban Star Trek. Not because it's a threat to world peace, but because it's rubbish. Okay.
I kind of agree with John there a little bit.
All right. New listener Sophie here. I totally agree with you. The war in Iraq could definitely be a Star Trek plot. She says, this is Sophie, says, Alison, you need to watch some.
Well, I tell you what, I might go and watch some now just to see whether I agree with all this stuff. Honestly, I never realised. I mean, I've seen it on the TV, you know, but I normally just change channels. I once met Dr. Sulu.
Mr. Sulu.
Mr. Sulu.
Dr. Spock.
Oh, sorry.
He's a paediatrician. Mr. Spock.
Right.
Dr. Bones.
Okay, right.
You don't need to know all the ins and outs.
George Takei, his name is,
George Takei, yes.
Takei, yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, I did pantomime with him.
Really?
Very nice man.
Pantomime. People listening in America go, what the hell? What kind of sexual practice is that?
Actually, I got a funny story.
Does that involve animals? We know what you Brits are like.
I've got relatives in America.
Yeah.
And I was explaining to them that I was doing the Southern Counties pantomime. And I said, oh, you know, if ever you want, they said, oh, we'd like to hear that. I said, yeah, it's on the internet. You can listen in now.
Okay.
You can hear the pantomime if you want. And she said, well, how does that work on radio? And I thought, well, she's being a bit thick. I thought, well, you know, as anything would work, you just go online and you can listen into the radio station, you can hear it. She thought a pantomime was a mime.
A mime.
She thought they were going to be playing out a mime on the radio.
Yes.
And that's where the confusion had set in.
Couple of emails that have come in. Can I just... Is she sorted out now?
She is, yes.
Good. Whereabouts in America does she live?
Chicago.
Beautiful. Wonderful place. This says, hi Tommy and Alison, my name is Tim Brazil. I am the founder of... He mentions a Star Trek, I guess, website. He says, we are a group of dedicated fans that helped keep Star Trek Enterprise on the air last season. And we're working hard to keep it on this season. Our website has had over 200 million hits in the last 8 months. The actors acknowledge us publicly as well. I've been a long-time Trek fan, and I would love to get in on the debate. I think you're misguided on Bush, as well as numerous other thoughts. And there's a telephone number here. It looks like Tim has mailed us from somewhere in the United States. So can we put him on the list?
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Tim. We may well have time to get to you this evening. Sam Davis has emailed, if you're going to produce evidence to link Star Trek with neoconservatism, sorry, I just turned on, this may not be your contention, then you have to ask the question, is Bush a realist? Many believe he is. And if so, is the Star Trek Federation a realist organisation? In fact, it is an international organisation, he says. If so, then how do you reconcile the realist belief that the state and anarchy are the sources of power and the state will override international stellar institutions in matters of the state's welfare and primarily the state's survival? This is somebody called Sam. Do you see what we're up against here?
People are obsessed,
Does that email give you some idea of the kind of, what shall I say to be kind, level of involvement that some people have in Star Wars? Ryan O'Neill, must be another one, has emailed, Tommy, you really could not be more wrong when drawing a parallel between Star Trek and US policy post-September the 11th. The most recent series of Star Trek's latest incarnation, Enterprise, featured a year-long plot which was described as Star Trek's 9/11. Now here we go into the minutiae of the thing, and I'm going to largely steer clear of the minutiae. I'm interested in overviews, but nevertheless, Ryan, thank you for that, and I will read your email in full during the next song. Greg has emailed from Coventry. He's 15. He says, I agree with your co-host that you're definitely... Co-host. I like that. I like that. I do like that. It kind of beefs the whole thing up, doesn't it, really? Greg goes on, that you're definitely reading far too much into the subject. I myself could be called a Trekkie, but I know that you should take a certain perspective on the series. I personally believe that the whole franchise is as harmless as any other global franchise. Until now, I'm totally bewildered in how you believe it will cause World War III. But I admit it has made a very big impact on the world, but only as far as the social aspect. To say it has affected the political workings of the world is a bit far-fetched. I look forward to hearing more of your arguments and to see if your take on the franchise is plausible. And Greg has also given us his telephone number. We will be absolutely discreet with telephone numbers, as we are with all telephone numbers that are passed on to us at the BBC to call you back. We do this so that we can save you money, and also it's the best way of ensuring that you're who you say you are. From then on, you're free to say what you want to say, as long as it's clean and not in any way libelous. And so that's what we're going to do this evening, yeah? Let's talk to somebody from the United States, shall we?
Okay, do you want to forward me those emails that you've had sent to you? And then I will do that. Call.
Whilst I am enjoying one of my favourite Christmas tunes. Did you ever see the Snowman cartoon?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, you're not going to play Walking on the Air, are you?
Well, evidently not now. No, I was there. Here it starts, but what, you don't want it?
Not really.
You really don't want Walking on the Air?
It's really not
what would you rather have? Stevie Wonder? Ah, come on, let's give this a whirl, shall we?
It's Alid, isn't it? Oh, he's going to hit there. Oh, he's there.
Have you seen him lately?
Yeah, on Strictly Come Dancing.
Yeah.
He was the contestant on that.
He wouldn't get served, would he, still?
How old is he, actually?
33.
Is he?
I don't know. Okay, Alid, it's quite enough of that. We've definitely got the gist. Merry Christmas to you and yours. Let's cross to Tampa, Florida. What a wonderful part of the world, and say good evening to Michael Hinman, who's on line 1. Hi, Michael.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. It's nice to talk to you.
Yeah, it's great talking to you. Been listening to the show a little bit, so...
Now, you're a man who knows his Star Trek.
I don't know if I know it as well as other people, but...
Give me a little bit background on yourself, because you're actually home for an awful lot of Trekkies, aren't you?
I'm sorry?
You're kind of a home base for a lot of Trekkies.
Yeah, I operate a website. It's called Sci-Fi Portal. It's a news website, just on the internet. We've been around for about 6 years.
And you get kind of busy, don't you?
Yeah, we get about maybe 30,000 visitors a day. So it's not that great, but, you know, we try.
How popular are the sort of grandchildren of the original Star Trek, your Andromedas and your Deep Space Nines and so forth, in the United States? Because they're pretty big over here.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think Andromeda gets a lot more play than it should. We're not a big fan of the show, but, you know, I mean, a lot of people, especially that visit our site, I mean, they love Star Trek Enterprise, but then you have a lot that don't. And it just depends, I guess, on, you know, where you're coming from and what you enjoy watching.
Have you watched any of the original series lately?
Lately? No.
No. No.
It's hard to find on American television. I mean, they have it on a, you know, on a cable channel here, but
you see,
who has time to watch it?
I taped a few way back, and when my sons were telling me how wonderful Deep Space Nine is, I said, listen, you ain't seen nothing, take a look at this. And they enjoyed it. They said it looked a little bit creaky, but I found it a little bit creepy. This is why we're talking about it tonight.
Well, I mean, I was listening to a little bit of that, and I mean, I just had a hard time with the one part that you said where, like, the networks were, like, trying to shove some kind of propaganda down. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, when you look at the way networks were in the 60s, especially when the original Star Trek was on, I mean, those had to have been the dumbest people on the planet that were running these networks. They had no idea what Star Trek was doing. I bet you half of them didn't even know what the show was.
But my point would be that they had their own agenda, and whilst they might not have fully recognized what people refer to as Gene Roddenberry's vision, they had a vision of their own, and they were spending money on the show, and anybody who works in entertainment knows that he who puts the money in gets to say, and I want this and this and this. And it was in rewatching these original Star Treks that I noticed what I suspect were one or two intrusions into the Gene Roddenberry vision.
You know, I'm not even really sure. I mean, because I know that NBC had somebody, you know, that was always consulting on the show, and he had some input on the show. I mean, I'm not sure if there was any political agenda that was supposed to be there, even though Star Trek itself, you know, was a home for social commentary. You know, I mean, I'm just listening. It's just, I don't know. Even when I watched the episodes again, and you know, as an adult, because I first watched them as a child. And then seeing them, it's like, well, I mean, I could see some of the points they're making, but, I mean, nothing there told me that, you know, that I should hate Russians or that...
No, you didn't need to, because the message was that America had already kicked their butt. That's why the little Russian guy and the little Chinese guy was sitting underneath Kirk.
Well, I mean...
That was the message there. That was pretty straightforward, wasn't it?
Well, unfortunately, minorities in television have never had a fair shake, especially in the 60s, but I think in Star Trek they had a much more fair shake, you know, at least during that time period, than they did on any other show. We
used to have a show in this country. Now, you never had anything as bad as this on American TV. It was called the Black and White Minstrel Show. And it consisted of white women dressed as white women and white men dressed up as black guys with their faces corked black. It was taken off, but not that long ago. And when you hear about it and when you see clips of it, it kind of makes your blood go cold.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'm afraid I got the same feeling when I watched these old Star Treks and looked at the baddies.
Well, of course that we would. I mean, when you or I look at something that was done 40 years ago, I mean, and you look at how women were treated, you look at how all of these different things happened, but I mean, you know, I think that should just show just how positive that society has come, where we can look back and it's like, you know, why did people make a big deal about Uhura, you know, and Kirk kissing because of an interracial kiss? Or, you know, why was it a big deal that they had a Russian on the bridge? I mean, you know, it was just these kind of things that we look back at, you know, we can say now, like, wow, I mean, that was considered groundbreaking, but it was. I mean, you know, I know somebody had mentioned Martin Luther King, and he was a fan of the show because Nichelle Nichols, who you had mentioned before, had talked about the fact that she was going to quit the show at one point because she really didn't have a major role in the first two seasons. And so she was just going to leave the show, but she actually had a run-in with Martin Luther King, who's like, no, you can't quit that show. You know, I watch it all the time, and I know that there's a lot of people who watch it all the time. And there was one person who watched it all the time, and her name was Whoopi Goldberg, who always claims that she's been inspired by the fact that, you know, she's able to turn on her TV in the 60s where she wasn't expected to go anywhere because of her minority status, you know, and... you know, seeing it just a black woman on the bridge of the Enterprise.
But why didn't anybody say, hey, look at the Klingons, why do they look like brothers?
Why do they look like... well, in the original series, Klingons were not played by black actors. I mean, that was something that happened more in recent years. But I don't think that it's exclusive to, you know, black actors. I mean, you have Michael Dorn, who's the most primary black actor, I agree with you, who's even above Avery Brooks from Deep Space Nine. But
Are we quite certain that nobody at the studio decided that the bad guys that Star Trek, the Enterprise would frequently find themselves in combat with, because in the case of the Klingons, they were crude, aggressive, untrustworthy, and the Romulans, and had brown skin, and the Romulans, who were kind of sneaky and cruel, and had kind of almond-shaped dark eyes and yellow skin. Do we not get a little bit nervous about a subliminal message there, which might actually have been high in somebody's mind? Well,
I mean, I could see where anybody could draw any comparisons from any type of character or any type of race or or whatnot that you see on any television show, especially science fiction, because science fiction has always been a place for social commentary. And one thing that I like, I don't know if you've really seen it too much in the original Star Trek, but at least when you see probably what you call the grandchildren, at least the bad guys aren't like these two-dimensional, let's all hate them no matter what kind of characters. I mean, you can look at, some of these, a lot of these races, especially ones that we end up battling with, but you can kind of understand where they're coming from, almost to the point where you're, mostly sympathetic to them.
Do you get many black guys, many Hispanics at these Trekkie conventions?
I don't really go to that many of them. But
I don't tend to see, nor do I.
A lot.
I don't see too many in the pictures, but maybe because they're dressed up as different characters, you can't tell.
Yeah, you don't really see. Yeah, and it's true. You don't really see. There's not a huge Latino element in there, but there's not a huge gay element. There's not a huge. There's a lot of minorities that are ignored in science fiction and television in general, and that's kind of sad. But I mean, I don't think that television should be bent on making sure that every single minority that exists is included. No,
but do you think it's possible that there was somebody somewhere in between Gene Roddenberry and the stuff that went to air the first time, whose vision of the future, 100 or 200 years from then, 1960, whatever it was that the world would largely be run by fit white Anglo-Saxon Protestant men, and everybody else would have to know their place, and the enemy would look an awful lot like Afro-Americans and Asians?
Well, I mean, you get a lot. I mean, there is a lot of arrogance, especially when you look at Hollywood. When you look at, when people and especially in America, you see it a lot. And I mean, I'm not slamming my own country, but I mean, you see it in a lot of places where people there's when they're, I guess it's hard to explain, but when they're able to see what they're doing and know what they're doing and know that they might be doing it better, or that they think they're doing it better. I mean, they always put themselves in that dominating role. But I think during that time is that what you're just seeing is that's just the way people were thinking at that time. I don't know if they really had someone sitting back as oh, let's just make sure that we show white supremacy everywhere. I mean, I'm not really thinking you're seeing that.
As a matter of interest, do you happen to know who put the first lot of money into the project to get the whole thing off the ground from day one? Sorry?
Desilu Productions, Lucy Ball and
Desilu. It was, yeah, it was. Yeah, go on. Tell us a bit more about Desilu.
Well, Desilu, I mean, that was just a company that was started by Lucille Ball and her husband, who's Cuban American, right there. And I mean, it was one of those things that they had taken on several projects, as a production studio. And I mean, and to be honest, Desilu was the only studio that would pick this up. I mean, if you didn't have Lucille Ball, who is actually, from what I understand from people that I've talked to, that I've interviewed in the past, that was there during the time, but she was key on making sure that, the kind of stuff that you saw. And I don't think that Lucille Ball, though, had a political agenda.
No. Do you know who their main sponsor was?
No.
Okay. Well,
I really don't.
I do.
Oh, is this part of your revelation?
Afraid so. It's cute.
Is it is it Black Ops or the CIA or anything?
Well, we'll get to that when we talk a little bit more about Gene Roddenberry's background before he became a writer.
Well, he was a cop before he was a writer. He did some other things.
Yeah, that's right. He worked, didn't he, as a sergeant for that well-known bastion of liberal broad-mindedness, the LAPD. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he did that, but I think he ended up being more of a speechwriter after time.
Well, yeah. And before that?
I know, in the police department.
Yeah, before he was in the police, before he was an LAPD cop.
Oh, man, I used to know his whole, but I haven't really looked at that in a long time.
I believe he worked for the U.S. military as a special investigator.
Yeah, that's possible. I don't remember that. I don't remember reading that in his biographies at all.
Yeah, no, he was a special investigator with, do you want me to get you the quote, what his job was?
Of course.
You interested?
Of course I'm interested.
Okay. Alison, we better get a light on in here, because I've got the studio down, and I'm talking to a guy in Tampa, and I can't see my hand in front of my face. We kind of like it relaxed here, because it's late night here where we are.
Oh,
okay.
yeah, I don't blame you.
Gene Roddenberry worked for the United States Air Force in special investigations, which USAF themselves defined today thus: the primary responsibility of the Air Force Special Investigations are criminal investigation and counterintelligence services. They conduct offensive counter-espionage operations targeting foreign intelligence services. And that was around about the time when he started to write.
And where did you pull this from?
I got that from a tiny and hard-to-believe organisation called the United States Air Force.
Well, I mean, that's probably... I mean, I haven't really studied Gene Roddenberry that in-depth.
He was a spook.
I mean, I'm sure it's true, but...
He was a spook. And I don't hold that against him, but he was a spook, and he learnt propaganda. He was taught it by USAF.
So, I mean, is that what you're thinking then, that just because of that background, that suddenly that he decided to, you know, that, oh, I'll just start a series and make it one of the pop icons of all time, you know, I mean, and
he ended up there. He ended up there, but he also learnt to write at the University of Columbia, and you know, when you learn to write, one of the first things that is drummed into you is that there has to be another meaning behind whatever it is that's happening and whatever else you're writing, a symbolic value.
Yeah, but do you think that, I mean, and I'm sure, like, if you watch the original Star Trek, there is a lot of symbolic, I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, because you couldn't talk about the Vietnam conflict, you couldn't talk about racism, there's a lot of things you couldn't talk about on television at the time, but Star Trek was one of those, you know, venues where you could take science fiction, create something different, but still be having the same meaning. And I mean, I don't know if I really disagree with the fact that, you know, war is bad, that racism is bad, and things. Let
me ask you a couple of quick questions then, just to...
Sure.
Do you think that the word Trek is a bit odd?
Not really.
Well, I mean, I don't use it in my everyday parlance, do you?
No, I mean, there's a lot of shows that I don't, you know, I don't use the word shrine either. In a lot of my everyday parlance as well.
True, true. But then, do you know what the word Trek means?
I'm assuming it's just a form of travel.
No, not quite. It's actually an Afrikaner's word. The Boers invented it. You know who the Boers were?
No, you got me totally.
Oh, okay. They're a bunch of they're a bunch of colonists who introduced apartheid in South Africa. But that's neither here nor there. Hey, just a small thing, just a tiny, tiny thing. Have you noticed how many K's there are in all the big names in Star Trek?
How many K's?
Yeah, letter K's. You've got Star Trek, that's got one.
Yeah.
You've got Captain Kirk, he's got two. You've got Mr. Spock, he's got another one in there. You've got the Klingons, they got a K. Jeez, even the guy who was going to be the captain before...
Pike.
Had a K in it. And I understand that the Starship Enterprise wasn't going to be called the Starship Enterprise originally. It was going to be called Yorktown.
Yeah.
That's 9 out of 9. 9 Ks out of 9.
There's a lot of E's in there, too. I don't know.
Well, there's supposed to be lots of E's, because that's the most often used letter in the English language, but the letter K isn't.
Well,
why are there so many Ks in all the keywords in Star Trek, forgive me?
I don't know. I mean, it seems like one of those... Like,
does the letter K have any significance in American culture?
I don't know. I mean, you sound like a kind of person that would go and read Bible codes and stuff as well. I mean,
are there any organizations that cherish the letter K in American life?
Well, there's a huge racist there's the KKK.
Oh, really?
I don't know.
Oh, really?
I don't really think that, that those are interrelated at all.
Nah.
I mean, I don't think the KKK was very happy with, a lot of the stuff that Gene Roddenberry was doing in the original series.
Wow. I'd like to talk to you again sometime about this or anything else. I've really enjoyed our chat.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a pleasure being on your show.
Thanks for being on the show. Thanks for your interest. That was Michael Hinman, a Star Trek, I'll use the word, expert, talking to us from Tampa in Florida. It's BBC Southern Counties Radio. I'm Tommy Boyd. Alison Ferns is busy this evening, but we're going to get as much of her on the microphone as we can because she's a fine woman, and I admire her views, and I admire her integrity. And she's sitting here kind of taking notes because what we've bumped into is the notion that an apparently innocuous science fiction giant, probably the largest media success the world has ever known, because it has simply spawned so many children and grandchildren, movies, and massive, massive franchise spin-offs, and it's the Star Trek phenomenon. I have my concerns about its underlying message and where it may lead to if people spend too much time exposed to it and come up with the idea that that is the way that the world should solve its problems. The switchboard number is 08459570057, or you can email us if you want to appear on the show. We will call you back. Just email us with the point that you'd like to make, and obviously your telephone number, which we will deal with discreetly, as we do with everybody who leaves us their phone number, because our system at the BBC is to call you back, to put you to air. The email address is tommy.boyd@bbc.co.uk, tommy.boyd@bbc.co.uk, or you can text us if you're in the UK. I don't suppose it's possible to do that if you're outside the UK. The telephone number is 07786 20 70 70. Let's take a few emails quickly that have come in whilst I was talking to Michael there. Gene Roddenberry is not a government spy, nor does work for the government, etc. Old conspiracy theories that have no evidence supporting them. If you come out with that or something similar, you will be laughed out of the door. Enough said, Mark Lawson. Well, Mark, I would just remind you something that previous caller didn't know, himself a Star Trek expert, which is that Gene Roddenberry, in fact, I mean, when I began investigating this, I wondered whether Gene Roddenberry had ever met anybody from the CIA, but it's clear to me from his work for the Military Special Investigations Unit that never a day went by when he wasn't with somebody from the CIA. So, email from Sam in Exeter. He says, in fact, Star Trek and the Federation sums up the... oh, gosh, he's off on his... Sam, I'll get back to your letter very shortly. Thank you for that. Mark Lawson has said some interesting information for you. Enterprise was going to die last season. It was going to be axed, but it was saved by 17prize.com and millions of viewers who like watching the show. Why should your opinion outdo millions of others? Well, millions of people can be wrong. I refer you to 1933 and Middle Europe. Let's go to Rex Rouvier, who's going to talk to us from Salt Lake City, Utah. Are you there, Rex?
Yes, I'm here, Tommy. Thank you.
Good. I was worried we might have a funny old line there, and we do, but I'll persevere with it because I want to hear what you have to say.
Wonderful. As you mentioned, I'm from Salt Lake City. I host a science fiction talk show here that broadcasts across the internet. And, you know, when I got your email message from your staff about Star Trek and science fiction in general being a danger to humanity, I had to say something. And that something is, I disagree with you, Tommy. I feel that Star Trek and science fiction are inspirational and help us to explore aspects of humanity that we cannot do in real life.
Why not?
Well, mainly because we have these things called laws that prevent us from hurting that person over there or telling them how we really feel so that we can try and seek a more political solution.
But what can you discover in Star Trek that you couldn't discover in, say, an episode of something like, I don't know what your current soaps are on TV at the moment, but you used to have things like Peyton Place and Dallas. You could explore, surely, all those issues in programming like that.
Actually, you mentioned that there were political issues that were being explored either by metaphor or intentionally in the show. And I think that is probably the level we're looking at.
I'm concerned about some of the underlying themes in at least the original series. I have to confess I haven't seen too many episodes of things like Deep Space Nine. But nevertheless, I believe that for genetic reasons, a lot of the values that are reflected in the original series are probably still around in all these grandchildren, if you like, such as Andromeda. And it concerns me that there are some obvious subliminal messages about how the future may represent the hopes and dreams of a small group of Americans, namely the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. And I've touched on this a little bit earlier this evening, but how can you assure me that the simple fact that the Klingons and the Romulans, the main enemies, tend to look a little bit like African Americans and Asians?
Okay, let me just start off by saying I can't assure you of anything because, one, I'm not in charge. Two, I believe with Allison that you are reading a lot into a TV show. And as William Shatner said, it's just a TV show. But it does bring up certain issues. And you mentioned the Klingons looking like blacks and the Romulans looking like Chinese. Well, even in the series, the original series, the Klingons and the Romulans at certain times were working with the Federation. For example, there is an episode, Day of the Dove, where the Klingons are beamed on board the Enterprise, and they wind up fighting with the Federation crew. In the end, both came together to defeat a common foe.
Yeah. I sometimes wonder whether little tweaks like that were made just to head off what's I think a pretty blatantly obvious argument. You see, let's take a couple of little details, if you like.
Okay.
Roddenberry was an interesting man, wasn't he?
You know, I have read a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. People working with him. We just interviewed Susan Sackett, who had a long-time affair with him, and you know, there's a lot that people would like to gloss over with Gene Roddenberry. But interesting man, yes, I believe that is a good description.
Okay. And his background himself, we talked a little earlier with Mike about his background. He was an LAPD cop. He was a special investigator for the United States Air Force, which is basically a counterintelligence job.
Well, that is the current state of that position.
Okay.
But was that the state in the 60s?
Where was he from again?
Gene Roddenberry?
Yeah.
I believe Texas.
He's a Texan. He's a Texan. Fought for the Confederates during the...
Actually, technically, Texas was neutral, but it is a southern state, and, you know, I think the Texans were more hoping that the South would win so they could declare their own independence, and that's a Texas attitude.
Sure. Sure. Which state was the first one to send an official Ku Klux Klansman to Senate?
Oh, that I don't know.
That was Texas.
Okay.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, that isn't all that surprising to me. However,
no, not to me either.
The KKK, as you will know, has been declining greatly in membership because the attitudes of the organization are not reflecting its members anymore.
No. And it wasn't... The KKK wasn't big in the 1960s. It was kind of big in the 1920s when Gene Roddenberry was a lad. I believe they had 8 million members.
Okay. And I do have a question based on that, though. The implication that you're saying seems to lean towards Gene Roddenberry was a member of the KKK?
I couldn't possibly say that. And I wouldn't say that. I suspect he wasn't.
Well, would that be the case, then, if he had an affair with Nichelle Nichols, a black woman?
I said I wouldn't want to say that.
Well, I wouldn't want to say that either, but that seems to be the tact you're taking. And
I'm talking about... I guess I'm talking about influences.
Okay.
You know? What was the organization called that Star Trek represented? The United...
Earth Space Command?
Federation of Planets.
Oh, well,
yeah.
Later it changed into that,
yeah. They were feds.
Yeah.
And one of the things that the feds were fighting for during the Civil War, one of the things was to retain the right to keep slaves.
Actually, I believe the Federalists were the Union soldiers.
Could be.
Yeah.
I'm shaky on American history.
That's okay.
I wondered why he picked some of the names he picked.
Okay, yeah, you mentioned that earlier. I want to point out, Yorktown, you are, of course, familiar with the significance of Yorktown.
As a Britisher, sadly, yes.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Not at all.
Yeah, that Yorktown, for those who aren't aware, is where Cornwallis surrendered during the Revolutionary War, or I don't know what you folks...
Of course, they ended up calling it Enterprise, which is another word for capitalism.
Actually, that's true, because he wanted to get away from the warlike sound or interpretation of Yorktown.
The original captain, I read, was going to be called April.
Yes, Robert April.
I wonder why that was. Funny old name, isn't it, for a guy?
Actually, it was a different type of character, too. But still, you know, an Anglo-Saxon white man. But yes, he was softer and gentler.
Hey, I've just had a thought. What were the dates of the start and the finish of the Civil War? Wasn't it April 61 to April 65?
Yes, it was.
Nah, that wouldn't be a link, would it? Nah.
I would call it a coincidence.
Yeah, that's a coincidence.
Yeah.
And so they didn't call him April, did they? They called the first captain Pike.
Yes.
That's got a K in it.
Christopher Pike.
That's got a K in it.
Yeah.
I don't suppose there were any Pikes fighting for the South in the...
You know, I'm not familiar with the entire registry of both sides during the Civil War.
I am.
However, I did personally have relatives fight on both sides during the Civil War.
Yeah.
Or the American.
Do you know what? Do you know what's a funny thing? There was one general fought for the South in the American Civil War who was also publicly a senior member of the Ku Klux Klan. And you'll never guess what his name was.
Well, I'm assuming it's Pike.
Albert Pike.
Very interesting.
Coincidence. Hey, coincidence, come on. Isn't it?
Well, you know, I can't speak to the strings that you're tying together here, but
No.
I should also point out that Chekhov had another K.
Yeah. And Kirk had, whoa!
Yeah, Kirk had two.
2 Ks.
Yeah.
Now, what's a Kirk?
The entomology? The entomology of the word Kirk? That I don't know.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah?
You know the flag of the Ku Klux Klan is a saltire, a diagonal cross.
Yes.
The original saltire was the cross of St. Andrews. St. Andrews was a Christian saint who was crucified, but he said he didn't want to be crucified on a cross like Christ because he wasn't that good, so he was crucified on a diagonal cross. And he became St. Andrew, and he is the patron saint of Scotland. And that flag, the diagonal cross, is an unusual flag, and it's a flag that I know only of 2 organisations that use. One is the South in the Civil War, and the other is the Ku Klux Klan. And the word for church in Scottish is kirk.
Oh, very interesting.
It's kind of coincidence.
So is
Total coincidence.
to follow that through, then, are the Ku Klux Klan Scottish?
Interestingly enough, most of the Scottish emigrants who went to the United States did settle in the South. But I don't know whether many of them played any part in the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
But they did adopt...
I would think that would be a generalization myself, but...
Oh, yeah, sure. I ain't going to hang my hat on that. But it's kind of interesting, isn't it?
It is an interesting coincidence, yes.
Coincidence, yeah, I agree. Total and utter coincidence. Do you happen to know who put the money into Desilu to make the first pilots of Star Trek?
Actually, NBC paid for the first pilot through Desilu, and they didn't like it. They thought it was too cerebral.
That's what you read, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That has been what has been reported for 30 plus years now.
It sure has. Along with the fact,
original cast and writers, yeah.
Along with the fact that it went away and then came back a couple of years later because of the groundwork of the die-hard fans.
Bijo Trimble's letter writing campaign. She claims to have had a large role in saving Star Trek and then bringing it back after it was taken off the air.
I was chatting to the other guy, Mike, about what a trek is, because it's an unusual word, if you ask me.
Yeah, actually, I found that very interesting.
Go ahead.
But see, I always interpreted trek as a journey.
No. It's actually a Boer word, and the Oxford English Dictionary, which, hey, isn't perfect, defines it as this: the advancement of large numbers of white settlers by wagon to colonize territory, especially from Cape Province to Natal in South Africa. That's a trek. White colonization.
Yeah, because that's interesting. The American Heritage Dictionary says that it's to make a slow, arduous journey. And it's a migration.
That warp thing ain't slow.
And it's from the, let's see, Middle Dutch trekken, as in to pull or draw.
Yeah.
Travel.
Yeah, the Boers were Dutch. Well, but we had a war with them as well, so...
I've heard of the Boer War.
You have, yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, but I did want to get back to the original topic.
Sure.
Which is that Star Trek is generally promoting peace through discourse and diplomacy rather than aggression. Then those that are aggressive in the show typically are the alien races. That the crew of the ship, of the Enterprise in particular, is multiracial. And this theme has actually been picked up by other series as well, most recently by Stargate Atlantis.
Okay, Rex, I've got to crack on because I've got a queue going around the block because this is the kind of thing that people find interesting, a kind of a conspiracy and a little bit of intrigue and
I understand.
Talking next to nothing about something that apparently isn't terribly important, but I just suspect might be a bit more important to some people, especially back in the 60s, than we might realise. I've really enjoyed talking to you, sir. I shall make a point of trying to tune into some of your shows.
Speaking of that, can I actually mention the show?
I'd like you to do that.
Okay, yes. We're www.i-sci, that's SCI-fi.com. We're a weekly broadcast show about science fiction, and we'd love to have you tune in.
Thanks, Rex.
Thank you, sir.
Cheerio.
Good luck.
Nice man. Got him thinking there, didn't we? I think so. Seth's our next caller. He's in Fort Myers in Florida. Hi, Seth.
Oh, dude, Chummy, how you doing, laddie?
I'm all right, how are you?
Originally Yorkshireman, moved over here with wife. Well,
so you are.
American girl.
So you bloody are. Now, I thought for a minute I was going to be talking to somebody with a high hat.
Oh, no. Right, now, I looked at the website, and I must say that I have to disagree with you, Tommy, about all this this Iraqi business and everything. Oh, I say, Tommy, it's just not...
They all think they're Captain Kirk, mate. Seth. They all think they're bloody Captain Kirk. That's what it is.
Let me point some out here. Now, to me, Kirk was a prediction of what a man should be in the future. It's not what we've got today, is it? He was a man's man. He took the blame for his crew. He was straight in there. He was a forward man,
You're talking about him being a man's man. You're talking about him being straight. Listen to me. 200 years in the future, where are all the gays on the Starship Enterprise? Where are all the gays?
I think you're being a little bit...
If this is supposed to be a vision of the future, they knew about gays in Hollywood in the 1960s.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm sure they did. But
they know about gays now. Why aren't there any gays on Deep Space Nine?
Well, to be fair, I always found that Rom was a little bit gay. Myself, I think it was a little bit camp, the way he used his tools and stuff, but that's
I don't know what you're talking about, and that's probably...
Look at the engineer, Scotty. He was always a bit of a daft one, wasn't he? You know what I mean? So he's probably close as you'll get to somebody being gay.
What's the weather like out there, Seth?
Oh, it's very hot today. It's always warm down in Florida.
So you get us on the internet loud and clear, mate?
You what, Tommy? I didn't quite catch that bit.
Do you get us loud and clear on the internet, Seth?
Oh, yeah, good reception. Very good reception indeed.
And can I just ask, what evil are you doing, you Yorkshire people in Florida at the moment, then?
Oh, my wife, you see, she's a doctor down this way.
I see.
So, she's actually an audiologist. I believe we'd call them ear doctors back there.
Beautiful.
So, just live over here with my wife. And I'm a big Star Trek fan, always have been.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any conspiracy.
There is, mate, there is.
Tommy.
There is. Do you like conspiracy...
Shakespeare once said, it's just a bit of fiction.
Do you like conspiracy theories, though, Butt?
Oh, I mean, I get, you get them all the time, Tommy. Everything you read.
But do you like them?
You might, I do, but you might as well say, we buy a Delia Smith book, and we look at a recipe. Is there a message in a recipe to go poison people? No. Too much conspiracy. I mean, they're interesting, but there's just an overload. Just an absolute overload.
I'm very grateful for your call, and that's one hell of an accent there. I can't understand people from Florida, and I can only just about understand you. How the hell you get served? How the hell you get served at the bar? God only knows. You must have to draw them a picture.
No, I'm originally from Bogdale in Yorkshire.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying. Thank you very much indeed for your call. Mad as a fish. I like it. 08459570057. It's BBC Southern Counties Radio, and we're tweaking a few tales across the pond at the moment. But there's a very serious idea underlying what we're doing this evening, because I honestly believe that Star Trek has gone quite far enough. Thank you very much indeed. I wouldn't stop anybody from watching it because I don't believe in censorship, but I do think that its merit has been blown out of all proportion. I'm sick and tired of people saying that it is an important vision, that it has been of profound significance in the human experience over the last 30 or 40 years. It's been a cash machine for an awful lot of people, but a particular concern that I have is that when it represents its vision of the future, it represents a vision of the future that it occurs to me would be particularly comforting to a group of people that I don't actually have an awful lot of time for, and that is the far right. The far right I'm talking about here. Alright? 08459570057. I've got to bring my mate Alison in on this because she's been extremely diligent, hard-working, and I don't know if she's had an enormous opportunity to listen to what's been going down this evening, but are you beginning to notice how many times I'm asking American experts on Star Trek questions and they have to go, I don't know?
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
There seems to be an awful lot of coincidences as well.
Isn't it a coincidence that there are 9 Ks in the 9 key words of Star Trek? That the word Trek itself is a Boer word meaning to boldly go with wagons into parts of, in this case, South Africa and colonise them for white man. The white man, isn't it an enormous coincidence that the first captain of this Starship Enterprise was called Pike, and the only southern pro-slavery general in the American Civil War, which was fought round about the neck of the woods where Gene Roddenberry, the man who invented it, was born, was called Albert Pike. And that the flag of the Ku Klux Klan is a saltire, and the first and best-known saltire, and in fact it's sometimes called this, was the cross of St Andrews, the patron saint of the Scottish Church, and the Scottish word for church is Kirk, K-I-R-K, and that's what the captain is called in Star Trek, Kirk.
The bit that interested me as well was Roddenberry's background.
Oh, that he was special investigator for the United States Air Force, and then a sergeant in the Los Angeles Police Department. So are you saying that as his role as let's call him a spook, he would have been taught about propaganda? It wouldn't be necessarily part and parcel of what he does. Propaganda's part of what everybody does. Yeah. But there are a number of things which sort of fall into place, which fall into line, which are consistent about his background. He was born in a place called El Paso, which for a part of the American Civil War was headquarters for the Southern Forces, who were fighting for the right to retain slavery. Yeah. And there's quite a few other little bits as well. Do you know much about conspiracy theories? Not really, no. So I'm going to go across to America again. We've got somebody on the line. It's Mike Ruff from St. George in Utah who's on the line. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Tommy, how you doing?
We've been working our way through some thoughts about Star Trek.
I've been listening to your show.
I'm grateful. You're a fan?
Yeah, you can say that. I watched it originally when I was just a little kid, and picked it up again when they reintroduced it when they came back through, and through the various reruns through the 70s and sometimes into the 80s.
You Yanks used to have westerns, TV westerns, as your staple diet, and they were great.
They followed the theme, but there were similar themes throughout. that covered the expansion of the West and the subjugation of Indians and whatnot.
There are a lot of parallels between the Western genre and Star Trek.
Oh yeah, in fact, the history of that is it was supposed to be put together as a progressive Western, a wagon train to the stars, if you will. So it's based on kind of a wagon train theme, which was also American Western. But
you got a fundamental expansionism, haven't you, about Star Trek? That's what it's all about.
Sure, and that's think about the human species as a whole. What have we done throughout? We've migrated and taken over every square inch of the earth.
Taken over, exactly. Yeah, and the human beings who are representing human beings on Star Trek, it's not planet Earth, is it, that's boldly going? And it's not the United States that's boldly going.
Right.
It's the minority who rule the United States who are boldly going, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants.
I think at the time, the whites were, in fact, we were the majority of the population at the time. It's shifting dramatically with the influx of Hispanics, African Americans, Chinese, Asians, and there's quite a diverse melting pot today. And, if you think about historically, as a couple of the other callers have iterated, that you have had a shift, a paradigm shift. You can't really compare Hollywood today as Hollywood was back then, and some of the mores and things that you couldn't touch. One of the issues I'd bring up is the gay issue. There is an episode on Deep Space Nine, I know we keep bringing up the grandchild, as you call him, of Star Trek, but where you actually have Jenzia Dax meeting her ex-lover when she was a man, the Trill symbiont, and that did bring about a gay issue there.
And how about ageism?
What's that?
Well, there is a vision of the future, isn't there, where the world is clean and run by people like you, and there are covert and possibly illegal organisations on planet Earth that have to be carefully monitored lest they achieve some sort of mouthpiece for their views.
Sure.
Watching Star Trek again just recently, it became very clear to me that the vision of the future suggested that those dangerous minority groups might have actually won.
In Star Trek's visualization is that the minority groups may have won and become the mouthpieces of the planet?
Basically that you have a fascist planet.
Right. And that is controlled by one centralized government and one centralized currency and...
Yeah, the people who control the United States, who are not the ethnic minorities or, as you quite rightly point out these days, the ethnic majorities.
Right.
But you only have to look at all the men who end up in the White House.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
And their advisors and inner coterie to realize that your country, not unlike ours, is run by wasps.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that the United States overall, and it's a sad thing, a lot of it has to do with the disenfranchisement of the minority voter. It's a lot of it, and I think that, in a lot of cases the minority and even your poverty-ridden Anglo-Saxons are not encouraged to vote. Their opinions are not counted. And I do think that is a problem in our country. It's a problem with our political state, and I would agree with that. And it was even more so back in the 60s when this was put out.
Now, what are the chances, and what would it do to your view of this program that you have loved for such a long time? What are the chances that at its inception, when Gene Roddenberry was hawking around this idea that he wanted to set something 200 years in the future, some people said to him, okay, well, we'll give you the money for that, but it needs to be our vision of the future?
Well, I don't know if I really so much agree with that. I think that it would have to make it through the censors, and like any big corporate product, you're going to have a board of directors, and sure, things are going to be modified, and there's going to be creative differences depending upon who the corporate board puts over your project. I mean, that happens today. Companies that I've worked for, we've had situations where we'd like to do a project one way, and somebody who may not be as in tune with the project has you do it another way because they have their influence, and their influence is a little bit higher. So yeah, sure, there could have been some things that were originally slated to be on there that might have been modified to fit the view of the higher-ups in the NBC or at the FCC. Absolutely.
Roddenberry has talked a lot about the battles he had to prevent one of the sponsors, or maybe it was the sponsor, getting the entire crew smoking.
Well, I'm certainly glad that didn't happen.
It didn't happen. It didn't happen, and Roddenberry had to fight long and hard to prevent that happening.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Apparently they also wanted a Christian priest on board.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
He said, well, hey, I've read these things. They kind of fit with my concerns about Star Trek at its inception.
Right. Well, one thing I would say, you bring up a lot of points about things, the background, innuendo, and circumspection, about some of these things regarding, Roddenberry's involvement with the Air Force and other factors. But really, if you're going to talk about the creative works, of people and the history of things and their production, you could say the same thing about the Catholic Church, for crying out loud, and yet is the Catholic Church totally evil? Should it be banned?
It's a different conversation. I don't think...
It's a different conversation, but you're bringing two genres. You're bringing religion and you're bringing science fiction. In a lot of ways, you're talking about how Trek is so involved that in some cases, some people could consider it their religious belief because they set their life to the standards of...
That's what worries me.
Well, yeah, and that's, anything that becomes a major influence, it becomes a propaganda tool. And that's the biggest question is, how dangerous is this propaganda tool? I personally don't feel it's dangerous, and those that would go out and actually espouse some tangent of an ideal that has been put on this show, yeah, they're whacked, and that's a problem,
How do you think the Ku Klux Klan would have realistically liked the future 200 years from 1966 to be portrayed?
It's kind of funny you mentioned that. George Takei, who your co-host talked about meeting, on his newsletter recently, he talked about how they were really embarrassed he was talking to a group of broadcasters, Fox, NBC, ABC, and how they were kind of shrugging their shoulders as to why most of the shows today didn't have strong rules for Native Americans, Spanish, Asian, African American roles in their shows. And the fact was that he goes on to say that Gene Roddenberry really fought hard to have these people on his show. And today's shows are even more dominant white than they were in the 60s, or at least in this case.
Nah.
Yeah?
Nah.
Yeah.
We get them over here, you can't work that one on me. We get them over here as quick as you get them over there, so you can't. I ain't going to have that one.
Oh, no.
Listen, if I was the Ku Klux Klan and I was putting $500,000 into this show, I would say, okay, of course there are going to be Russians and there are going to be Chinese. They're our two main enemies at the moment, but we want them underneath a white guy. We want them underneath a WASP. We want them underneath a guy who looks like an all-American, and that's who they ended up with William Shatner. Well, of course you're going to have monsters. We want them all smoking. We want them all to be Christian, and we want the regular bad guys to look like the kind of bad guys that we are really worried about coming to live in the United States. And that's your Star Trek.
Well, the one thing
that's your Star Trek, isn't it? And that's what the Ku Klux Klan would have asked for, wouldn't they?
You talk about an intergalactic xenophobia going on there.
That's what the Ku Klux Klan would have said. That's what we want. We'll give you $500,000 to make this first episode, but these are the changes, mate.
Right. So you feel like NBC was a puppet of the Ku Klux Klan to get this first episode, the pilot?
It would be awful to discover that was in any way true, wouldn't it?
Well, sure. You're the investigative journalist. I'm asking what you have found.
I don't know if I need to. I don't know. I'm nervous about putting it on air.
Why?
Because it's spooky.
Well, yeah. Anything's spooky. The truth is always spooky, but the only way to get rid of the spook is to open up the cupboard, find out what the boogeyman is.
Have you noticed how many K's there are in Star Trek?
Yeah. After pointing it out, sure, but
Had you not noticed it before? K is such a powerful letter.
Well, the only time I think about K is for strikeout or kilometer. Really, that doesn't mean anything to me as in terms of a white supremacy thing.
Have you heard that conspiracy theory about the Ku Klux Klan owning some cigarette company?
No, I haven't. No, I do operate a site that I have available for people to actually submit conspiracy theories or articles relating to them, and I find it fun to go through and see what people submit.
There's a really stupid conspiracy theory going around, and I happen to believe it's one of the least plausible I've ever come across, which is that the Ku Klux Klan own a cigarette company, one that makes the world's most popular brand, because it's got 3 Ks indiscreetly decorating the packet.
Philip Morris?
Now, why did you say that name? Why did you go and say that name when I'm being careful not to be shot or sued? Why did you say that name?
So that's the first one that came to mind.
I'm going to deny that I believe what you have just suggested.
Deniability is the ultimate...
Because I do not want to be somebody who the Philip Morris Tobacco Company come looking for. But is that what you thought?
Sure, absolutely. And, and it's just going through and actually picturing their product in my mind. Yes, absolutely.
But you hadn't heard the conspiracy theory yourself?
No, I had not. No, it is not something that's been brought to my attention.
No, it's out there.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Do you know...
Yeah. Go ahead.
Do you know the name of the... We mentioned it earlier on the show, the production company that...
Yeah, Desilu.
Desilu.
Uh-huh.
Do you know who their main sponsor is?
Not currently. They've had a lot of association with Disney.
Do you know who their sponsor was at the time that Gene Roddenberry was trying to get Star Trek off the ground and eventually found somebody who was prepared to put some money into it?
Could it have been Philip Morris?
Do you know who the main sponsor of I Love Lucy was?
I have no idea. No.
Philip Morris, America's most enjoyable cigarette, presents the Lucille Ball Desi Arnaz Show, I Love Lucy.
Hi.
Wow, that's pretty spooky, isn't it?
Isn't that a remarkable coincidence?
Yes.
That's all it is. That's just a coincidence, isn't it?
Right.
I mean, if you were researching this and you wondered whether the people who put the money into Desilu might have been somebody who a ridiculous urban myth links with the Ku Klux Klan.
One thing I do have to ask you.
Yeah.
Do you really feel there's a direct correlation to the original Star Trek totally indoctrinating our entire military complex, our leadership structure, to the point where it is causing us to run our political campaigns, our military campaigns in this nature to go out and wipe out new people and take over strange new worlds?
Kind of like that. I think you put it pretty well.
Well, I don't always agree with what is being done in our military, but I think that, every little thing that we have had, you could take this and say, okay, yeah, you could single out Star Trek, or you could take any number of shows that have been produced that would say the same thing, if you were to look hard enough. But you feel that Star Trek is so popular and so widespread and accepted that that's the worst tool there is for this propaganda.
I think, again, you put it just as well as I possibly could.
Okay.
I've enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
I think you've got a couple of things to think about yourself.
It'll be definitely interesting to go through and research some of these facts. And
I'd appreciate that. Hey, if I've got my facts wrong, I would be happy for you to explain that to me. I look forward to contact with you again.
It would be wonderful. I look forward to it.
Nice, thank you. Okay, now I want to make... Hello.
Hello.
I want to make something absolutely clear. I do not believe that the world's largest tobacco company has any links whatsoever with the Ku Klux Klan.
No, I'm glad you want to make that clear, because I've got to say, that is a ridiculous theory.
But it is an enduring urban myth.
I'd never heard it before.
Apparently there are 3 Ks on every packet of Marlboro cigarettes.
Right.
So what?
I think that is ridiculous, isn't it?
I don't think the urban myth is founded on anything more or less than that, and that's just not enough for me.
No.
That's not enough for me. But it's one that sticks in my mind, you see, like urban myths do.
Yeah.
And conspiracy theories do.
Mm.
So there you are, working your way through a block of information about Star Trek and the people who made Star Trek.
I know, I had no idea.
And you suddenly think to yourself, I wonder who put the money into it into the first place. And I wonder if somebody did say there ought to be an awful lot of Ks in all the key words. And you should have the name of the guy as the most famous American general who was also in the Ku Klux Klan, and that is a fact.
A lot of coincidences.
That's all they are. That's all they could possibly be. But you can imagine how your hair goes up on end when you look into who put money into Desilu. I don't even know if they were still funding Desilu at the time when Desilu said, OK, here's some money for you to go and make Star Trek. And whenever anybody puts any money into a television production, they always have their say in how it should be changed so that they can get some of their messages out. You know? And so there may have been absolutely no Philip Morris money in Star Trek. But it's annoying how the number of Ks that there are in it, and really you go from there, and every time I kicked a stone, a couple of little things hopped out from underneath it. I'm going to leave it there, I think, this evening, for people to chew on. Got lots of, there are lots of people listening who are hoping to get on the show on this one, and I think, should we, what I'd like to do is leave it where it stands. As I say, I think I've made my case very clear. I am concerned about the thrust of the loss of Star Trek. I do believe I uncovered something that was a curiosity in my research. A circle was squared, but I personally don't believe it. I think it's nonsense. But it was a curiosity, and it was a mass of coincidences. Wasn't it a mass of coincidences?
Lots of them, yeah. We've got loads of people who still want to come on.
Okay, fine. What, from...
We've got some people in America, some people in this country.
I wouldn't mind taking some Brits. I love talking to Americans because they're so concise and neat and tidy, and their thinking is always good. Quick email. Djurtjes has emailed. I'm a 17-year-old girl from the Netherlands. I have to say I don't agree with you about Star Trek. I consider myself a Trekkie. I watched Star Trek Voyager. I don't watch the other series. I never got into that. I have my own site. I collect a lot of things about Miss Mulgrew. Is it what I don't know. This is what Star Trek people do. You know, they sort of colonise part of their lives with it.
That's what I find strange. That is the thing that I really can't get my head around, because there's nothing that I would ever get that obsessed about. There's not one thing, and these people really do they submerge themselves in it. It does become part of their life. Some of the people I've spoken to on the switchboard, they are completely and utterly obsessed with Star Trek.
Logan Heinel has emailed from Ontario, Canada. He says, if it wasn't for Star Trek and its ability to inspire people decade after decade to be motivated to creativity or to deal with issues diplomatically, we wouldn't have such things as cell phones, non-lethal stun guns to advanced scientists, to advanced sciences like lighter-than-air materials, study into antimatter. He's already on another planet. Sorry, Logan, don't buy any of that.
Anne from Lancing made me laugh. She phoned up to say that she's never watched it, doesn't understand what all the fuss is about, but then did offer her own conspiracy theory about Aled Jones. Remember you played Walking in the Air, the song from the Snowman earlier?
I'm up for this.
Well, apparently Anne in Lancing says that it's not Aled Jones who actually sings it in the film. That it's a lie that's been put out there. And we all think it's Aled Jones, but it's not him at all, it's somebody else.
So what, is he dead? Is he like Paul McCartney?
I don't know.
Is he barefoot on his last album?
I've never heard that conspiracy theory before.
If you play it backwards, you're like, I'm walking on the air, does it sort of go, Aled Jones is dead?
I don't know. I'm just passing on the messages I receive.
Okay.
So yeah, an Aled Jones conspiracy theory.
Right, and the emails just go on. I can't read out them all, but thank you to everybody who has sent in various emails. David has emailed from Ireland, defending Star Trek, as I understand it. He says it's probably not wise to go on a tirade about Star Trek if you haven't seen much of the more recent versions of the show. Yes, it is, baby. You don't have to have seen every single show back to front in order to form a view about a gigantic project like this. You really don't, you know. You're entitled to form an opinion if you've just absorbed quite a bit of it. And this is where I am one up over you, fella David O'Hara, okay, and you also have a decent overview of planet Earth. And the only overview that most Star Trek fans have, actually, is of their own bedroom. I mean, they get their food pushed under the door, most of these guys. I had an email from somebody who claimed that he would be able to explain the whole thing to me because, and I quote, he watches 9 episodes a day in his bedroom. You saw that email?
I saw that, yeah.
This is what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
And we're dealing with people who think that this is the truth and that what goes on outside their bedroom window, okay, is just too difficult to deal with, and so they don't deal with it. But they still have a vote. And they can still vote in somebody who they kind of like. And they kind of like somebody who acts a little bit like Bill Shatner, right? Who fires photon torpedoes at Afghanistan or Iraq, and who'll be next? Is it going to be Korea? Is it going to be Syria? Is it going to be Libya or Iran? Who knows? But it probably will be somebody Okay? And it appeals, this kind of simplistic, quasi-militaristic approach to expansionism appeals to 51% of the American population, and I bet you that although they would say that they have been introduced to broad-mindedness, liberalism, and the notion that different cultures should be tolerated by Star Trek, I bet you that the majority of Star Trekkie fans also think that it was a good idea to go and do what the Americans did to Saddam Hussein, do what the Americans tried to do to the Taliban in Afghanistan, and will do again soon. And it's not long before the tiger economies, which are chasing America up the greasy pole, China in particular, but also some of the other Far Eastern countries, and Brazil as well, are going to end up saying to the United States, no, I'm sorry, hold on. Okay? And the United States then will have two choices, to back down, or to say, right, okay, we've kicked Iraqi butt, and we've kicked Afghan butt, and so on and so forth, in pursuit of our war on terror, but we can actually take you big boys on as well. And that's my fear. And I think that's a real fear.
Yeah, I think it is.
And these people who do this are voted in, and they're voted in by people who think that the Star Trek solution is probably a reasonable solution, because it works for Captain Kirk.
Because as you say, there are only two options for them in that situation, and they're never going to back down, are they?
You can't see, they're not strong on diplomacy, the United States.
No.
They don't have to be, because they've got so many bombs, basically. I've got a few bits of information that I'd like to put before the listeners, both right across the south of England, but also in Lithuania and various places that are logged on. And I know we're big in Japan at the moment. But this may not affect you, but it certainly affects you lifelong fans of BBC Southern Counties Radio.
Your name?
Peter Higginbottom.
And your specialist subject?
Byzantine pottery in the reign of Louis XIV.
Ever wanted to turn the tables on the experts? Well, now's your chance. Every lunchtime we line up a know-all who'll test us with 5 intriguing questions. All we have to do is answer them and nobble the know-all.
Who's the know-all today?
Don't let me down. Tune in weekdays at 1:30 and together we can nobble the know-all here on BBC Southern Counties Radio.
Our number's 0845 957 0057. Tommy Boyd and Alison Ferns with the Late Night Saturday Show on BBC Southern Counties Radio. Been talking about the threat to world peace, that is Star Trek. I was quite looking forward to having some heated arguments with some of the Trekkies, but I think we actually found that we had so much to put before them that they themselves hadn't consumed, despite their all-abiding interest, all-consuming interest. Worryingly all-consuming interest in Star Trek, but they've actually taken notes and gone away, and they've regrouped, and they're actually hiding behind a rock now with their phasers, and I reckon in about half an hour they're going to come out guns blazing. We shall see. But we aren't just talking about that this evening, certainly not from here on in any way. You can email the show by going to the website or by going direct to tommy.boyd@bbc.co.uk. And you can text us, and we like our texts, and the number is 07786 20 70 70. And Alison has shot back in with that smile on her face.
Yeah.
What happened there then?
Forget Star Trek.
Yeah.
The Aled Jones conspiracy continues. We can go to Michael in Eastbourne.
I'll do that.
He's going to sort the situation out for us.
Michael in Eastbourne, good evening. You've got Tommy and Alison, all ears.
Hello there. I mean, I've heard this story so many times, and I think it's sort of done the round so often. You know,
what? Aled Jones not singing?
Well, he did bring out the single, which got in the charts. But apparently, I think when Channel 4 commissioned the film, which they sort of show every year, it was some young chap who, I think from the St Paul's Junior Choir in London, actually did it. And I'm pretty sure on the credits it doesn't say Aled Jones, but his record company was sort of bright enough to suss out that it, you know, was doing quite well, and they actually released it as a single because the guy was still at Westminster School or something and wasn't in a position. So it's been doing the rounds for quite a long time.
Well, why are you bothered?
I'm not actually.
Okay, fine. I just wondered. Might have been a reason. I don't.
No, it just annoys me that you know. I was going to say people haven't got anything better to do than ring you up and tell you that, but I suppose I've done the same thing. So there you go.
If singing is genetic, right, and only the Welsh can do it,
yeah.
Why is that? then, for a start?
Well, I don't believe that only the Welsh can do it.
Oh, come on.
No, you're not going to wind me up. Come on.
I'm not going to wind you up, but it is odd, isn't it? Is it that we English tend to say, okay, well, it must be something that the Welsh can do, so we tolerate Aled Jones, whereas we wouldn't tolerate some kid from... I mean, we only allow that Nigel bloke to get away with it because he's playing the violin. He's not singing, is he?
No, I mean, I think it's the same thing with Charlotte Church, isn't
that's
it?
the one I was... Is she a Welsh as well?
Yeah.
Oh, bloody hell, I didn't even know that. Is she?
Yeah,
and
she's
you
Welsh.
sort of build them up, and then, you know, in 3 months' time, you've got a story to knock them down again.
Yeah, but they're Welsh. They're always Welsh. Have we got an English Aled Jones or Charlotte Church?
You throw me there. I don't know.
Alison,
I mean,
I
know people slag off people like Sarah Reitman and things, who's done incredibly well.
Yeah, she's not Welsh, is she?
Well, no, but she's done particularly well in the States and Canada and Germany. Not terribly well here because of the Lloyd Webber Association. But I mean, some of her albums are fantastic,
but we don't get rock choir boys or girls like Charlotte and this guy Aled.
Well, I've got to be careful because Aled's on in Eastbourne, I think, next week. But you know,
well, how do you know it's him? It might be a doppelganger. It
probably is. I shall go and make sure he's not the guy at the end of the Snowman credit.
What are we saying here? That Aled Jones is in fact dead?
No, I'm not saying that in case his mum goes potty and she doesn't know. But
her son's dead.
I don't know.
That's a kindness.
Well, I don't know. It's the thing about the Tom Jones thing when he was.
Is he dead?
Well, no, but he was supposed to be going... There was this big plug when he did the musical Matador, and there was this big sort of album that he was promoting for 18 months, and he was starring in it. He was actually too old because the story's actually about a young bullfighter, and B was that the fact, yes, he had a very good voice, but he could actually only do 3 performances a week, and they couldn't have Tom Jones in on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday because they'd have to bung someone else in, and people wouldn't buy the tickets.
No.
But you're probably
Laurence
right.
Olivier, when he died, they had a hologram of him on stage, didn't they?
No, that was Laurence Olivier in Time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And but he probably sings better, and he's not Welsh, is he? So.
Laurence Olivier, no, God no. Thank you very much indeed for your call, Michael. I've enjoyed talking to you.
Bye.
I never met Laurence Olivier. And he's a great fan of Brighton.
He lived here, didn't he?
He lived here.
Yeah,
he
on the
lived
seafront.
Huge flat on the seafront, marine something or other.
Yeah.
And I remember when somebody asked him what success was like, and he said, "Success!" Because he talked like that, because he's an actor. And he went famously, he said, this was in America, he went, "Success is like oysters and Brighton." Isn't that nice?
Very nice.
Isn't that nice?
I don't agree with you about the Welsh thing.
What thing?
Well, there was this programme that I was watching before I came to work today, which you would have hated.
Excellent.
Following on from our conversation last week where you slagged off the X Factor. Get this, the premise for a show. It's called The Can't Sing Singers.
I like it.
And they've got a group of people who can't sing. They've got 4 groups. They've got the London group, the Birmingham group, the Welsh group, and I think the final group are a group from Liverpool. And they basically can't sing. But they've trained them for 3 months, and they're still...
Crap.
Yeah. I was trying to think of a nicer term.
It's 11:30.
And the Welsh weren't that good in that. So I don't think it's... I don't think we can say it's all the Welsh.
They do sing a lot, whether they should or not.
They do sing a lot, yeah.
They tend to sing a lot. But I like the idea of dead people continuing to make a contribution. Have you ever heard of a Spanish hero called El Cid?
Name rings a bell.
Yeah.
Nice man.
El Cid. He led the Spanish.
Yeah.
To reclaim Spain from the Moors. You see. And the big battle was about to happen. And the Moors got off an arrow. And boom. Right through the torso, and he was a goner. It took him a couple of hours to die. I think people don't realise that in ancient battle, you know, you very rarely just took one right through the heart and you were down. Generally speaking, you were twitching around. And it's a dreadful business. Anyway, they said to him, well, we're going to lose the battle now, because without you as a counterpoint, a spiritual, a sort of a standard, an inspiration to our troops.
Well, they said this to him while he was writhing around twitching on the ground.
Right. He was sort of going, ooh.
Oh, was he? Yeah, I think he was doing a little more than a ooh.
I'm losing the light. No, it's like Nelson, apparently. It's quite a gentle death. To die, basically, of or bleed to death, and also bleed internally. You sort of gargle in your lungs.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Well, you asked. And they didn't know whether to push the arrow through or pull it out. That's the other thing with arrows, because they put barbs on them. So they're very difficult to pull out without pulling out a load of old stuff that needs to stay in there.
I've always thought about that, actually.
Sometimes have you ever heard the phrase? Have you ever heard the phrase, you know, the equivalent of, you know, grasp the nettle or bite the bullet is push the arrow through. That's what that comes from.
Oh.
Awful thought. Push it through! Do less damage if you push it through than if you pull it out. Because of the way the barb is. Anyway.
Yeah.
So...
Would that apply with knives as well, or just arrows?
No, they've got barbs, knives.
So, if you get stabbed, you can pull it out?
I would.
Yeah. Just wanted to...
Not necessarily straight away.
To clarify, no.
It's the sort of thing Bob Staunton knows more about, doesn't it?
I'll ask him.
He knows a lot more about self-defence.
Yeah.
Did you hear his apology?
He got into trouble.
He got into trouble for saying that you could defend yourself using a Moulinex.
The bit I heard was something about
downstairs.
Potatoes and paint.
Yeah, cold potatoes and paint. It's some kind of slow death thing that he probably learnt at some out-of-date SAS manual. I don't know. Anyway, he said it, but he shouldn't have done. So what they said to El Cid was, would it be alright with you then, when you die, if we actually animate you as though you're alive?
No.
Yeah, that's what they did.
No, they didn't.
They did. It's kind of funny to think about it, but because the troops needed to see El Cid alive, they sort of tied him up so he was standing upright and sort of had people behind him, so
lifting his arms up and stuff.
Yeah, apparently. Wow. So legend has it. I don't know. And then they tied him on his horse. With a broomstick up his...
Oh, enough already. I'm going to answer the phone.
Yeah, okay. And, no, that's true. That's a true story. There's a little bit of historical fact there for you. Right. Mrs. Margaret Richardson has emailed to say, Mr. Tommy Boyd's Star Trek Night is absolutely disgusting racially towards black Americans. That is all I have to say on the issue. Chris has emailed to say that William Shatner wasn't a WASP. He was Jewish and a Canadian and of Ukrainian descent. My source. His second officer was also Jewish. So your whole idea is blown out of the water. Sorry. He was an actor, Chris. And it doesn't matter what his racial origins were or political views, he was playing a part. And the part he played was that of a WASP. You twit! Don't know why I bother sometimes. We've been talking about Star Trek earlier this evening, and why it is a vehicle for evil, and why it is sending out a false message to lonely Americans who can vote, largely Americans, of course. There's plenty of other people who watch it, who can vote, and do vote, and vote for people to go treating planet Earth like it's the Klingon Empire. This is my point. And I'm also a little bit concerned about who might have actually had creative input into the original Star Trek series. Email from, it appears to be anonymous, but it says, you need to check out a website which he or she has given me details of. Legend Marlborough's owned by KKK, status false. Well, so the guy says. Rumours about the markings on cigarette packets indicating Ku Klux Klan ownership have been in circulation since at least the mid-80s. They've become widespread. They're even well known in France and England. Yeah, I know that, mate. I've been to that website, and I happen to think that the urban myth about Ku Klux Klan owning Philip Morris is ridiculous, anyway. So you don't have to convince me of that. What?
I've got another update for you on this whole, do you pull the knife out or do you leave it in?
Oh, no! What, somebody rung in to say what you do if you get a knife in you?
Yes!
This is BBC Southern Counties Radio.
Stephen from Hailsham wanted to let me know.
I don't believe
No, this is true.
I don't know.
He wanted to let me know
that
you keep the knife in.
Oh, for God's sake.
If you take the knife out, you let air in.
Air? We don't want air, do we, us mammals?
Anyway, you bleed to death.
Look out, here comes some air! Ah!
You bleed to death. He saw it on Casualty.
I can see that. On Casualty. Right. On Casualty.
Yeah.
That's the programme where they put those two flat irons on people's chests about every other episode. Stand away!
Stand clear!
Boom! Nothing.
I know.
Never works, though, does it? Right, no, but let's not talk too much about it.
No, let's leave it there, I think.
So this evening, how to survive a knife attack.
It's quite gory, but...
Next week, what to do if somebody drops a block of wood on your head.
Well, no, but you know, thank you, Stephen, because it was a question I asked, and I wanted to know the answer, and now I know it.
I hope you're never the victim of any kind
So do I.
of an attack. But I am somebody who has actually lopped off a piece of himself with a Stanley knife, accidentally, obviously.
What bit?
Bit of my finger. And it went on the floor.
Oh.
And I stuck it back on again.
Oh, don't.
And I put a handkerchief around it, and I ran to hospital. And I was in shock. And I said I cut myself badly, and I was dripping blood. So you go, if you're actually bleeding, you tend to go to the front of the queue. So the doctor looked at my hand, and he took the handkerchief off, and he got a pair of tweezers, and he took the piece that was off.
Oh. I'm so squeamish.
Do you not want to hear the story?
No, I can't do it.
Fine. In that case, then, I won't tell you. But
no.
If ever I point you in the right direction, go the other way. Because this is the point. He sewed it back on again, back to front. And that is absolute God's truth.
Let's have a look.
You have to put the light on.
Well, no, I can see.
Yeah. See that? That bit should be there. And that bit should be there. And after 3 weeks, they took the bandages off and took the stitches out. And he said, I think it's grown back, you're all right. And I'm walking home and I'm looking at it, I'm going, hang on.
Didn't look like that before.
I sewed it on the wrong way round.
Oh, dear.
And it took.
Wow.
See, so if I say to you, go over there.
Yes.
Go over there.
I will do.
Because that's wrong. Emails from Hugo. I missed the bit where you outlined your argument, so I assume you've mentioned the Prime Directive, as it seems the obvious point. But just in case you haven't, the Prime Directive is... No, it's not. I don't know what you're talking about, Hugo, but thank you for your email. And Tony. Oh, he's used that word, the one that you'd never use on radio. The worst word in the world. He's emailed it. Do we not edit that word out? I've worked in other places where that word gets edited out. Thank you, Tony.
What word?
I'm not... The worst word in the English language.
Well, he's texted it.
Yeah. No, emailed it.
Emailed it.
I just want to say that he's accused me of being an ignorant person, and I'm not. The points that I've made this evening about Star Trek are desperately original, intelligent, and thoroughly rehearsed. They might be ridiculous. I think they are. But if you think what I'm saying is ridiculous, you then have to prove that. You can't just go on my say-so that what I've said is rubbish. Because it's very well-researched rubbish, and it doesn't half square a circle. Okay? I don't know whether this is a genuine email or not. I think it might be somebody wanting money off me.
What's it say?
It's somebody who says, amongst other things, I'm therefore requesting to have your personal information, such as your personal address, your telephone and fax documents, to enable me to prepare documents which will put you in place as the next of kin and beneficiary to this said amount. And it starts, dear friend. So how about that?
That'll be a scam.
Tommy, someone has emailed, Star Trek fans are as fanatic as sports fans. The difference is you don't see Star Trek fans throwing chairs and smashing up stadiums like football hooligans. Well, you try telling that to the people in Fallujah, mate. That's a good point, wasn't it? I made that well, didn't I? Who is this? Twerp. Chris. There you are, Chris. That stuffed you, didn't it, mate? And Tony has emailed, here's a conspiracy for you. A BBC presenter is giving blatantly anti-war propaganda and anti-Bush propaganda. The same BBC that was proven to lie in its broadcasts and causing the suicide of a scientist. It's part of the BBC's massive anti-war propaganda machine. They even gave up Star Trek to Channel 4 as it doesn't fit the anti-war propaganda machine. That's this guy Tony again, I think. I wish he'd come to air. It'd be really interesting to see if he can talk. If you know what I mean. More emails, very quickly. David Hillman has emailed, I know nothing about Star Trek, but I do know about Lucille Ball, and I can give you the following information. Philip Morris sponsored the I Love Lucy show from 1951 to 1955, when they dropped the show due to poor sales. Philip Morris held no shares or stakes in Desilu. Good, thanks for that. That does help. Desilu was solely owned by Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz until 1961, when after their divorce, Lucille Ball bought out Desi and became the first woman to own and run a major television company. At the time Star Trek came along, Desilu had virtually stopped making their own shows and was struggling, basically surviving by renting out its studios to other companies. I hope that helped. It really does. David Hillman, thank you very much indeed. That is a thoroughly erudite and excellent email. Just update on text messages. Tommy, tell me, what is all the hype about your show? To me, you put up a reasoned argument. Lynn. Yeah, that's what we tend to do. But it's funny how a reasonable argument doesn't half annoy some people. And in any case, if you form an opinion about somebody, and it might be a radio presenter, and you decide from day one, the first time, but even before they've had an intake of breath, that you don't like them, then all you're going to do is go around looking for reasons not to like them, Lynn. And no matter if they turn out to be the most intelligent, reasoned, articulate, caring, broad-minded, perceptive, handsome people in broadcasting, you know, can't win. This is Ed in Bexhill, who says, evening Tommy, never been awake to hear you in full flow. I like the cut of your jib, my man. My main problem with Star Trek was that it was so dull. It was. I rather hoped that some of the Star Trek fans would have been a little bit more combative, Ed. But it turns out that actually they're all sort of quite gentle, which is okay. But they vote. The American ones vote, and they vote in a guy who deals with Iraq in the way that Bill Shatner and Captain Kirk and the rest of them used to deal with the Klingons. And I'm uncomfortable about the kind of stereotypes that you could look at these Klingons and look at these Romulans and say, well, blimey, they look a little bit like, you know, certain races on Earth. And I'm a little bit worried about where Star Trek might end us up. Chris has come back. He's a guy we spoke to a little bit earlier on the show, before we laid all our cards out on the table. He's a Star Trek fan, and he's calling from Leeds. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Tommy.
So you've had a little listen to, we've been round the block on this one. What are your revised thoughts?
Well, actually, I've got a list of things you said that I've got comments on, so if that's okay, I'll just go through them with you.
Go on then.
You said, obviously, that you feel that Star Trek caters to the right wing, and that it represents a lot of fascism and a lot of capitalism, the use of the, calling the ship Enterprise, obviously, representing capitalism, that kind of thing. What you've perhaps not realized is that Star Trek represents a socialist society, and that, in fact, in Star Trek, the heroes, the humans and others, are shown to be rejecting profit, rejecting capitalism, rejecting imposing their will on others, and in fact embrace other cultures, which seems to go quite a long way against the right.
What are they doing out there?
Exploring.
For what?
To meet other people, meet other cultures, and learn from them.
For what?
For knowledge. Why do we learn anything?
But what are they learning out there that they can't learn at home?
Well, obviously, by the time that they reach...
I'll tell you why people explore. They explore for commercial gain. And they explore for military reasons of military strategy. Those are the two reasons why people explore. And that's why they're out there doing that.
And yet when you look at Star Trek, they decry the use of profit. The Federation doesn't even have money. They say that capitalism is a terrible thing. They don't pursue greed or land or territory of any sorts, but they want to learn about other cultures in the same way that any student who attends a school or a university wants to learn about things, and that's what they represent on that show.
Whatever they might say they're learning in the scripts, mate, the people who are watching it are learning other things about what the future is supposed to be like, and that's what makes me nervous.
Oh, they are. They're learning about a future that portrays the ideal of making peace with people as a great thing. They're learning about a future that shows diversity.
Oh, come on, at least every other Star Trek episode ends with bloody fire-all photon torpedoes.
I don't think it does.
How many people are killed? How many people and aliens get killed in the average Star Trek, then?
I couldn't tell you offhand, but I think...
Do any of the security guards come back from the planet?
Frequently.
Do any of them?
Yes, frequently.
They're down there to be killed. They're always killed. It's always the little man who's killed.
I think if you've watched any reasonable length of Star Trek, you'll see that they portray issues such as people dying in a sensitive way.
Not if you're a security man. Not if you're a security man. You just get killed down there.
Where have you got this idea that all security guys get killed?
From Star Trek. I watched it too.
Well, so did I, and plenty of them came back.
And plenty of them didn't.
And
so don't tell me that it's peaceful. It's plenty violent, for reasons of pure entertainment, and you know that. It's all about standoffs. They're practically galleons out there giving each other broadsides in space, this lot. Don't give me this hokum that it's all peaceniks wandering around with hippie bells. For goodness sake, Christopher! Christopher!
Tommy, it's people who are making peace, and when they find that their peace is not accepted, then they have to defend themselves. Are you saying that we shouldn't defend themselves?
Yeah, they shouldn't be there. It's not their space.
Well, whose space is it?
Nobody's.
So we should all just keep out because it belongs to nobody. Should we have kept out of exploring Europe or America or anywhere because
Damn
it belongs
right
to
we
nobody?
should, because it never ended in anything but tears.
Well, I'm sure the Americans don't say that, and they've got a nation that's built on people who've colonized it.
They've got a nation that's trying to teach Iraqis to be Americans.
Well, I mean, let's go to that one then, that the Klingons and Romulans represent Iraqis and represent Koreans.
Don't they look unsettlingly to you like ethnic minorities?
Well, actually, they're composed of Spanish actors, English actors, American actors, black actors, white actors, old actors, young actors.
They're not
No,
white. They're not white.
Klingons?
No.
Well, I think you'll find many white actors have played them.
No, darling, not the actors that are playing them. The actors that are playing them are humans, but they are portrayed as having a number of the characteristics.
Such as?
Brown skin. What colour skin are the Klingons?
It varies. They're shown to have different varying ethnic...
Tell me which colour... Yeah, thank you. Tell me which colour skins they have, then.
They have white, they have brown, they have black, they have all the sorts.
Come on. You're making stuff up now.
I'm not making stuff up at all. If you pick up an episode of Star Trek, you'll see them. There are white actors.
What ethnic group do the Romulans remind you of?
To be honest, they don't remind me of any ethnic group in particular.
Now you're lying now.
Well, no, I'm not, sir.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Look, mate, anybody on Earth that didn't have an agenda would say that they look Asian.
And if they did, then perhaps
What do you mean, if they did?
If they did, if it's
What do you
true,
mean, if they did?
I don't think they look Asian.
You're talking rubbish. You're lying in your back teeth, mate.
Oh, come on, Tommy. It's
You
been
know that you are.
say that people talk rubbish. Listen to the argument.
All right, what colour skin do the Romulans have?
Oh, they have a whitish skin.
Ish.
Yeah, whitish.
And
green.
That's
because their blood is meant to be green.
That's simply not true. Chris, I'm going to have to let you go now, because you're just making stuff up, because you can't deal with the actual facts of the matter.
The same way that you can't deal with the fact that Star Trek has nothing to do with fascism. We have these fantastic conspiracy theories of, well, there are too many K's in it, or the word Kirk is in it, or the word...
All right, well, let's do that one then, shall we?
Okay.
Why are there so many K's in it?
Why are there so many E's in Enterprise? Was Gene Roddenberry promoting that we all take ecstasy pills?
I'm asking you why... It isn't. Because, okay, it's more than a coincidence that there is a letter K in every key word in Star Trek.
Well, aside from the fact that K is a letter of the English language, and you'd expect it to turn up in words and phrases, what's your point?
My point is, how often... do you know what my point is?
Hey, you're trying to say that there are too many K's that indicates the Ku Klux Klan?
How often does the K turn up on average in literature?
I'm not sure.
Have a think, then.
Probably less than most vowels. Probably slightly less than some consonants and slightly more than others. What's your point?
Will you stop saying what's your point?
Well, you haven't made it, sir.
Yes, I have.
There are too many K's, and that somehow indicates a racist organisation.
Have you been listening to this programme or not?
I have, the full way through.
Then you know what my point is, don't you?
To suggest that...
Now, your point appears to be that the fact that there is a bloody K in every key word in Star Trek, which I don't think is particularly important, but you're denying that it's anything other than a natural occurrence, you're going to have to go away. I'll tell you what you do. I'm going to get out a chequebook and I'm going to write £1,000 to you, all right, if you can find me anywhere where the letter K appears randomly in 9 words in succession in any work of literature, ever.
9 words you've chosen, not 9 words out of random.
Yeah, those are the key words in Star Trek.
Well, how many Star Trek characters don't have K's in their name?
All the minor ones, all the bloody minor ones. Who's the main character in Star Trek?
Which one?
But we're talking about the original one.
The original series? Captain Kirk.
Thank you. How many K's has he got?
2.
Who's the second biggest character?
Spock.
How many's he got?
1, and he's an alien.
What's the title of the programme?
Star Trek.
How many's that got?
That's got 1.
What was the name of the original captain?
Who nobody knows of, and therefore couldn't possibly have had an influence. Well, that would be Captain Pike. Oh no, it would be Captain April. I forget which one we're talking about.
April never went to air. The one who was in the first series that was made by the people who put the money in was called Pike. He's got a K in his name.
somehow the words Pike and Kirk have some tenuous connection.
No, stay with the letter thing, right? So, there's only one key word that doesn't have a K in it, which is Enterprise. And the main enemies of Starship Enterprise?
We know they are the Klingons.
And that's got a
K.
Okay, so you've got 9 Ks in 9 words. I'll write you out a cheque for £1,000 or to the charity of your choice if you can come up with anywhere in literature, anywhere in any work of literature where 9 words in succession have got a K in them. Deal?
Deal.
You got it? Off you go then.
Even if I can find that, then perhaps what you've missed is that it's Gene Roddenberry. Is there a reason you're talking over me, Tommy?
There is. There is.
Is there a polite reason you're talking over me?
There is, because we've got to go. And we finished it on a nice note, and I don't want you to sort of start, just playing with the spoon at the bottom of the dregs of the cup. All right.
Thank you very much, Dad.
Thanks for your call. Is he sticking to his guns? Because we all do a bit of that. Oh, look, here we've got Kevin from Arizona on line 2. Yo, Kevin, how's Arizona?
It's warm and sunny, Tommy.
Beautiful. What can we do for you?
I caught the end of the last conversation there with the trying to draw a line out of the letter K. I was thinking of Blake 7.
Yeah?
Another prominent sci-fi series.
Yeah?
Yeah, there's well, of course, Blake, and I'm doing my best here, I really am. There's the second ship, the Scorpio. That says a K sounding company.
We don't have the Ku Klux Klan in England, so it's very unlikely. We've got fascist organisations, don't misunderstand me, but I don't think we've got any Ku Klux Klan.
I should hope not.
You've got them in Arizona, I should imagine.
No, not in there. The Klan is a bunch of freaks, even in the parts of the United States.
How many American presidents were in the Ku Klux Klan?
I don't know.
Calvin Coolidge?
I don't know.
Harry Truman?
I don't think he was. No, not to my knowledge.
He sure was.
Hey, if he was, that's certainly something they don't teach us in our schools.
Well, you shouldn't go around calling your presidents freaks.
How about our current one?
Now we're talking.
Yeah. The Klan it's a national disgrace. It's one of the chapters of our history that we're not too proud of, and they try to sweep it under the carpet as much as possible.
I think you've done a pretty good job, but they've tried their best from time to time, and during the 1920s there were an awful lot of Klansmen.
Yeah, the 20s was the second most prominent time for the Klan. There's 3 major uprisings in history. That's right after the Civil War, and then again in the 20s. Nowadays, they can't seem to decide what their mantra is. They go after anybody, Jews, homosexuals. It's not limited to just the blacks anymore. I don't know. There's just a bunch of hate mongers, really. No one takes them seriously. Or at least no one with any sense takes them seriously.
It's true enough. And as I said earlier on this programme, you may not have been listening, I completely discount any ludicrous idea that a sponsoring organisation might have had Ku Klux Klan sympathies and might have therefore insisted that various aspects of Star Trek were augmented by Gene Roddenberry so that they fell closer to their own vision of the future. I don't think that's true, but it's possible to collect evidence which suggests that it might be true.
So you're drawing a parallel between the representation of the Federation and the Klan?
I'm concerned about the vision of the future that was put before television viewers in the mid-1960s across the world, and it was a time when, of course, Cold War propaganda was probably the most effective tool that the United States had, that they were able to use in their rivalry with the Soviet bloc.
I think the Klingons were originally intended to represent the Soviets.
Quite possibly.
And the Romulans represent the Chinese, as far as Star Trek goes. The mysterious empire that not really too much is known about that, and you only get tidbits of information here and there.
I remember it struck me the very first time I saw it when I was watching as a kid. These Romulans, I'm not that frightened of them. They just look like Asians. That's what I thought. I liked the episodes where they were proper monsters. I couldn't understand why we needed the Klingons and the Romulans. I sometimes wonder whether they were put there because they had this particular sort of relevance to some Americans' view of the way the world ought to proceed. I like the ones with the monsters in them.
Yeah. Like the Horta, the rock-eating creature.
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
And hey, whilst we're on the subject, isn't that spoof of Star Trek, the one with Tim, what's his name, isn't that funny?
Oh, Jim Carrey, yeah. Or Jim Carrey?
No.
The Saturday Night Live?
No. Galaxy Quest, it's called.
Oh, yeah.
A movie that makes fun of the whole genre.
Yeah.
That is funny. What do you do, Kevin? What evil do you do in Arizona?
I work for the news, the TV news.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Doing what exactly?
I'm a cameraman.
Okay.
Go on location and, shoot whatever the breaking news is.
It's interesting. My wife was in Kansas recently, and she said that the reason that Americans aren't talking about all the ins and outs of the Iraq war in the way that has been going on in the United Kingdom is because, frankly, they've got a lot more other, more interesting news to report.
I suppose.
Well, I'll tell you what she said. Someone gets shot every afternoon, and there's your lead.
Oh, you mean in Iraq or in the United States?
In Kansas, mate.
Really?
Well, things are quieter over here. I mean, I know you Americans are aware that Tony Blair has had a really difficult time with people at home because he held hands with George Bush over Iraq.
I've heard that pretty much 2/3 of the UK disapproves of him.
It's because we've had too much time to think about it, I think.
You've also had access to proper channels of information.
Oh, go on, tell me more about that.
Well, it's a little bit more one-sided here. The conspiracy theory goes that there's a certain wealthy elite that controls major corporations, and among those corporations are the media, and so only certain stories can filter down to go out over public broadcast.
Yeah.
No, I can't speak to the effect of how true that is or not, or how calculated it is, but
it's funny, the conversation's turned a full circle now, because we were talking about how there might have been undue influence put on the makers of Star Trek all those years ago. And here you are saying that there are people who believe that that happens elsewhere at the moment in the United States with news coverage.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The problem, our main, most trusted source of news is CNN. Anything that people see with the CNN logo, they tend to take as gospel truth. And that can lead to problems if someone has direct control over what goes out over CNN. But as far as Star Trek, I'm not sure. I wasn't alive back then. I'm only 24, but I know that the 50s there was the Red Scare. I was terrified of communism, all shapes and forms.
Sure, to be a writer during the late 50s in the United States meant that you had to not only be creative, but I suspect you had to be able to, I was going to say be deceptive. Maybe a lot of them were.
Or put on a certain face, so to speak, not I remember my mother told me how she read the Communist Manifesto as a child, and she had to do it in secret. She kept it, whatever document she had, she put it inside another larger book so that no one would see that she had it, and she had to read it in the basement in the middle of the night behind closed doors, for fear of prosecution. It's kind of a scary thought.
It is, Kevin. It's great talking to you. It sounds like the party's about to kick off.
I'm sorry?
It sounds like the party's about to kick off at your place.
Yeah. But one of the things I did want to say about Star Trek is I think it's one of the more responsive sci-fi mediums out there. There's the notion of us against them. All the, the Federation is a tight-knit group, and they're afraid of the quote-unquote other. But I think it's one of the mediums where it regularly responds to the complaints of the viewers. For instance, the original Star Trek, they said, sure, you have this multiracial cast, and there's a Russian, there's an Asian, there's a black woman. They said, but the white man is always in charge. So over the years, they've with Deep Space Nine, for instance, they put a black man in charge, and then Voyager, they have a woman in charge.
Yeah, but these black men are kind of, what's the best way of putting it? These black men are not African men. They're not even Afro-American men. Afro-American men, we hear singing, we see them expressing themselves in a way differently when they're with themselves and when they're with their fellow African-Americans. And when they're trying to express who they really are, they express themselves very differently from the black commanders and things that you tend to get in programs like Star Trek.
So you're saying that black men have to put on a certain face in order to be taken seriously in Star Trek or white society in general?
Yeah.
I don't know what's his name, Cisco, Avery Brooks, he strikes me, I don't know, because he's been successful, you know, he probably wears a suit and tie to work on it. Does that make him any less valid?
No, not at all, not at all. It doesn't, and I don't want to criticise anybody who performs in that way, but if we're talking about people representing racial groups, they need to do more than merely represent that group by dint of the colour of their skin. They need to do it by perhaps showing some allegiance to the cultures that they're supposed to be representing.
So Star Trek would be more all-encompassing, in your opinion, if not only did they speak English, but they switch into, you know, Japanese when they talk to Sulu, or into...
I don't know how realistic that is. I don't know how realistic that is because, to the great relief, Kevin, of yourself and myself, we may now have to learn another language because the whole of the world seems to be speaking English. So maybe that's an accurate one of Star Trek's few thoroughly accurate projections that everyone will be speaking English in space.
Yeah, but there's also Spanish. There's becoming the second national language or worldwide language. Here in Arizona, people switch between English and Spanish even in mid-sentence.
In that case, then that gives me the opportunity to say muchas gracias para todos sus palabras y adiós, Kevin, y sayonara.
You want to get rid of me, huh?
I gotta go. And now, listen, I don't want to get rid of you, but I've got a queue, and I do want to say that I've enjoyed your call. Thank you so much.
All right, keep up the good work.
Thanks, mate.
Bye.
Bye. Hello, Alison.
Hello.
Come back in again. You're very busy this evening.
Yeah.
Considering you were partying until 3 o'clock in the morning, that's impressive.
It is.
But you'll sleep tonight, won't you?
Oh, I will. I can't wait.
And what time do you think you'll actually get out of bed tomorrow? You've got to lie in, haven't you?
Yeah.
Go on.
Not much before 11, I wouldn't have thought.
Oh, beautiful.
I even stretched out to midday. Oh, I can't wait.
I can't do it anymore. Once you've had children, the lie-in just doesn't really sort of...
I've heard that. Why is that then?
I don't know. I think it's possibly because you get used to the notion that you have some responsibility that you have to, you have to attend to. And when you have small children, of course you do.
Yeah.
And somebody's got to get out of bed at 5 o'clock on a Sunday morning. As simple as that. And then that notion never leaves you, whether it's walking the dog or thinking, I left the kitchen in a terrible state last night, I'll just go down and do that. Or just I fancy a cup of tea. But it's a shame, because on the odd occasion when I do sleep on for a bit, it really does me good for a few days. And the trick that I use is to wear one of those eye shields.
Oh, like you have on planes?
And also, and this is my big tip, those foam earplugs that go in your ear and expand.
Oh no, I don't like those.
Oh, baby.
I've tried them. They hurt my ears.
No, they're foam.
I know, but they hurt.
I'll show you hurt.
No, they're uncomfortable. Okay, they don't hurt, but they...
foam the size of a butterbean.
Oh, hurt's probably a strong word. They're uncomfortable.
You wouldn't have held out, would you? You wouldn't have held out if they captured you. Eh?
No.
Rather than Miss Ferns, we have...
We're going to put some foam
we have two very small pieces of foam. If you don't want to tell us the Allied place, we are going to gently insert them into your ear. No. I shouldn't have done a German accent for that, but all I was doing was parodying, what was that one with the, oh, hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
How did they get away with that?
I used to like hello, hello. It's funny. Good moaning. I like that, police officer.
I only watched it for the lovely French birds. Because I love the idea that the French women that pretty would give themselves to Gordon Kane.
Yes. It gives hope to men everywhere.
It did.
Mimi.
It did.
It was Mimi, the little short blonde one.
Yeah, she was funny.
And what was the other one called?
Well, he was a carry-on actor, wasn't he? I don't know. But they're still doing panto. You still see them from Hello, Hello, the pretty girl. And, as well,
Vicky Michelle,
the leggy ones from Heidi High. are still doing pantomime.
Oh, are they?
Oh, yes, you know, because they're still leggy, I guess. Speaking of leggy, it looks as though I ain't going to get to see the producers before this little, what's his name, Lee Evans, moves on. But I hear that it's just the funniest thing that's ever been in the West End. Yeah,
I was talking to somebody about it yesterday at this party, actually, and they were raving about it. But Nathan Lane has had to drop out, hasn't he, because of his back. So apparently everyone's up in arms.
Which one's Nathan Lane?
Nathan Lane is like one of the stars in it, and they're saying that people are booking tickets because they want to see him, and so when they're turning up at the theatre and it's his understudy, people are asking for their money back.
Oh, I don't go along
with that. Which I never understand that at all.
I think it's very poor.
I think it is.
He's a poor lad. You know.
And I've never understood that. I remember people did it with Martine McCutcheon when she was in My Fair Lady. People had bought tickets and then... Why
talentless old cow.
No. My point is they only wanted to go because she was in it. When they got there and realised it was her understudy, they were asking for their money back, which I can't understand.
If you go, it depends why you go and see a show, and I don't go and see shows.
Why not?
Well, for theatre isn't for watching; it's for being on, kind of thing. Why not? I don't know. I don't know, because I'm too close to the front, I can see them spitting, and if I'm too close to the back, then there's the bar, so I'm in there. I just don't enjoy it. I can't believe in it.
Oh.
No. I do not. I willingly suspend disbelief, not at all. I'm a journalist. And we journalists can't enjoy fiction and shows and things, because we're always examining it and, you know.
So why do you want to go and see the producers then?
Because I've heard it's bloody funny and I like to laugh. And I've also heard that the dancing girls are quite something else. And I can, you know.
So that sold it to you.
There's nothing wrong with a pair of very long legs that go all the way up, I think. So that's, I don't know why it came into my... Oh, because we were talking about long-legged people in...
Yeah. I want to see Mary Poppins. I know that wouldn't be your cup of tea at all, but that's what I want to go and see in the West End, as well as the producers.
Okay, I may regret asking this question, but why do you want to go and see Mary Poppins?
Because
Surely you know how it ends.
Well, yeah.
But, go on.
But I watched the film The Titanic, I knew how that ended, but, you know, you still watch them even though you know what's going to happen.
Because you didn't know that What's-Her-Face was going to survive on a door. See, that's unlikely, because on the door, she would have been just as cold as he was in the water. You know, and it was cold that killed them, wasn't it?
It was.
You see.
But no, I want to see Mary Poppins. Oh, it's great, Mary Poppins. Do you not like it?
No, I think it's awful.
Oh, I think it's great. Oh, God, don't tell me. Mary Poppins is going to cause World War III.
Well, it's really not very good.
Okay, but it hasn't got any sort of undertones that I haven't realised.
Yeah, well, there's slightly some uncomfortable social aspects to it, but let's not go there.
No, let's not.
Let's settle for the fact that it didn't have anything to commend it whatsoever as a film in 1965, and I can't imagine how it's got something to commend itself now in 2005. But you're the boss, and you know more about theatre than I do.
Yeah, it's fun, and it's got good songs, and it's entertaining, and it's uplifting. It's a feel-good film.
Chris, who been on twice, he won't let it lie.
No.
And he's emailed again. He says, "So I'm a twit because I proved something you say wrong." Which, of course, he didn't. The KKK isn't going to pay for a Jewish person to be on TV. They are... well, he wasn't originally. It was another guy who played Bill Shatner, but anyway. Oh, look, Chris, let it go now, mate. Go away and have a think, because we've had some very interesting new material on the show tonight. This is quickly from Tony. Just one more side note. Yes, I swore. Angry reaction when you got personal about fans. But you read my other point, that anyone can draw conclusions from anything they want. Well, not quite. And at the end of the day, you have to speak to people who have been affected by Star Trek, like Whoopi Goldberg. No, you don't. You're not a black person who grew up in the US. No, I'm not. And I don't see how that intrudes at all on the merit of the information that I've put up for consideration this evening, which has been carefully rehearsed. Imagine the show rehearsed. Get in about 7 o'clock. So how should we start the show tonight, Alison?
Bomb the whole thing through.
I know, you come in and go. Right. Michael Muscarella has emailed from New York, USA. He said, "Why did you stop taking American callers when the most important caller, Tim, founder of SaveEnterprise.com, had the most valid comments and would have challenged you on many levels. You should not fear to have your theories and coincidences challenged. I don't, Michael, at all. I think America's had a perfectly good say in tonight's programme, don't you?
Yeah, we've had about, what, 5 callers from America?
Calls from the United States. And they've all been really intelligent, thoughtful, and polite. And, you know, I said, this is good, I said to Chris, I'd write out a cheque for £1,000 if
I heard that.
Literature that had 9 Ks in a row, and he said, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Did Peter Piper pick a peck of pickled... This is literature. This is literature. It is not literature, Chris, and there aren't 9 words in a row with K in them. That was the challenge, okay? That was the challenge. There aren't 9 words. Peter Piper picked, there's one, a peck. Okay, there's an A in between picked and peck. There's an of in between peck and pickled. And then there's a peppers in between did and Peter and Piper and the next pick. 9 words in a row. In a row. I hope I'm not going to live to regret this.
Yeah.
I'm not, I know I'm not. And it's not open to the general public.
Oh, you're getting scared now.
I am. And you're not allowed to tell Chris.
No.
Right. I'm getting a bit scared. Interestingly enough, and of course this wouldn't apply to me because I'm an honourable man, but did you know that bets are not enforceable in law?
No, I didn't know that.
No, they're not. Just having a look at text messages. Great show, Tommy. This is from D. Good to hear someone speak their mind instead of having to be politically correct and bow down to others. Wish me a happy birthday, as family forgot. Oh.
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 Poor D.
Oh, someone has texted to say you should be taken off air, Tom.
Oh, right. Have they signed that?
No, but I've got their number, you see. Shall I ring it back? Shall we ring her? No. So here we sit, you and me, and this is the last time we'll meet before Christmas Day, when we're on Christmas night.
Well, of course, this time next week.
Yes, this time
only
next week.
1 week left.
That's it.
Get it all together.
And, we closed our Christmas list.
Yeah.
Because we've received quite a few gifts.
We did. Thank you ever so much.
I particularly want to thank the only one that I've opened already, and that is from Eric.
Yes, I want to thank Eric as well.
I was opening because I thought it was a letter, and it turned out to be a book token.
Yes, it was very kind of him.
Which is very kind, and I'm thinking of actually getting something for one of my sons with that. So it's very, very decent of a man called Eric, and we don't know where he lives, so we can't write to him and say thanks. That's very decent, but we'll be opening our other presents from listeners.
We will, looking forward to it.
On Christmas Eve, as well. You look like a lovelier version of Nana Muscuri because of the width of the glasses that you're wearing, the spectacles that you're wearing this evening.
Oh, right.
And you've also got something of her smile.
Oh. Who was I last week? I was someone else last week.
Andrew Lloyd Webber.
No, before that one.
I can't remember.
Forgiven you for that.
No. Well, it was only a piece. I was only being funny. It was a joke.
And who was the other person you said last week? I've forgotten now. Oh, I can't remember.
Because there's a good game that you can play sometimes, which is who would play other people in the movie of their life.
Who would you have?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on whether it's the tragic or the comic version, really. If it was the comic version, I'd go for Robin Williams, I think, because he's funny, makes me laugh. If it was the tragic version, it's good. I think. Well, apparently I'm supposed to look like this bloke Troy in Neighbours, so I'll go for him. Troy? I don't know.
No, Darcy.
Darcy!
Troy.
Where'd Troy come from?
Star Trek, probably, I don't know. Troy. See, it's taken you over now as well.
Yeah. How about yourself?
I don't know. Who do I think? Sandra Bullock. Maybe. The comedy one.
Like her. You've got a much nicer nose than she. You've got a slightly funny nose. You've got sort of cleft.
I know what you mean.
It's got somewhere you could keep your salt if she was lying down and you were eating celery.
She loves you too.
Yeah.
As for the tragedy, well, I don't know really. That is a trickier one.
But who in prominent positions would you have play other people. Wayne Rooney, for example, because they'll probably end up. David
John
Beckham.
Prescott.
John
Wayne
Prescott?
Rooney could play John Prescott.
Silly, I didn't mean that. I meant who played Wayne Rooney?
Oh.
Who played Tony Blair? Who would play Tony Blair?
Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant could be Tony Blair.
Actually, there's lots of people playing Tony Blair, because there's that so-called comedy by Ian Hislop, My Dad's the Prime Minister.
Oh, yeah.
It's on Friday nights. And then there's that bloke who used to do the Nescafe adverts, who plays the Prime Minister in Little Britain.
Yeah.
You see, so he's covered. He's sorted.
Wayne Rooney's a trickier one.
Shrek. Other people say he looks like Shrek.
It's quite cruel.
He's an interesting looking boy.
He is.
You know. I'm going to take a tune. I really fancy a little bit of Stevie Wonder. And then we've got some more text messages to get through. They're rolling in. Emails rolling in as well. Switchboard 0845 957 0057. You can text 077 86 20 70 70. You can email. It's tommy.boyd@bbc.co.uk. Ah. I thought I'd creep Stevie Wonder. He makes good music, Stevie Wonder, but I can't honestly say that he's ever lifted my, I can't honestly say that Stevie Wonder has ever really made me, I don't know why. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I sometimes wonder whether it's that I can't get past the fact that he's blind.
Really?
I don't know. I don't know, but I've never gone, oh, look, there's a Stevie Wonder one on, let's go dance to that.
No. I don't think it's got to do with the fact he's blind.
No, I don't think so. I think it's got something to do with the fact that I suspect there's something slightly cerebral about what he does.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, although he sings from the heart, obviously.
It's quite laid back, though, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, there was a great album he had called Songs in the Key of Life years ago, and every track on it was spifflicating. But it still never really, I wasn't humming it all day long.
No.
Unlike the Mexican Hat song. Which
Oh, no, don't.
You'll have it all day.
Oh.
Sure, just to remind you, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, there's a noise that comes on in my car if I open the door when the lights are still on. Which, of course, you have to do quite often for a variety of reasons. And it goes da-da-da-da-da-da.
And that's it then.
And then all day long I'm
stuck with that tune.
Anyway, how are we doing for complaints this evening? Who's been moaning?
You haven't done too badly, actually. There's only been 2 complaints. Oh, I'm disappointed.
I like the complaints.
We have one lady, but none of them will give their names. One lady said that this show was just for men. Which I thought was quite interesting. She said the show was just for men. Because all we've spoken about tonight is Star Trek, and every other time she's listened, we're always talking about bodily functions.
That's simply not true.
Not true.
We weren't talking about Star Trek anyway. We were talking about the importance of symbolism in literature. We were talking about world affairs, and we were talking about the future of the planet.
Obviously, issues she thinks only affect men, which is slightly more worrying.
Take people's comments out of. Is it a voice that you reckon? Are there regular whingers? Whingers, complainers?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
And they just like to have a go. They're still listening now.
Oh, look at the phones going. I think they're phoning now.
Look at that. Look at that. Fantastic.
Oh, dear.
But they don't want to go to air, do they?
No.
No, I couldn't possibly speak to him.
No. No, they've all got the same line.
I couldn't possibly speak to him.
I couldn't possibly speak to that awful man.
He'll just shout me down.
He'd wind me up. I'd be too angry.
Yes.
Or they all say to me as well, I'd end up saying something on air that you wouldn't want me to say. Kind of...
I wouldn't care. Personally, I wouldn't care. I wouldn't give a hoot. I nearly said I wouldn't give a toss then.
You wouldn't have said that, though.
No.
No.
I don't know why. A couple of emails very quickly that keep coming in. Thank you, everybody. Matt has emailed... please say hi to my best mate, Stuart Willie, who's having a 40th birthday party on Christmas Eve. He doesn't like Star Trek, but he did tell me a funny story about Klingons, which I'll tell you about another time. You see, not being a fan of Star Trek, I can't tell you the only jokes I know about Star Trek, which are both quite good. Quite good. But you have to know Star Trek.
Oh, yes, no. Yeah, no, I really know nothing. Is Star Trek the one where they do that weird thing with their fingers like that?
Yes.
That is Star Trek?
Yes.
I can't do it.
No.
Can you do it?
No. Well, I've never tried. I honestly have never tried. Just as I never tried to do Ted Rogers 3-2-1.
Everyone's tried to do
I
that.
didn't try to do that.
You've never tried, not once.
No, because I could tell that the ruse was he'd get you doing it, and then everybody would be doing it in the playground, on the bus. 3-2-1. Nah.
Have you ever tried to lick your elbow? Somebody asked me to do that a couple of days ago. Well, they told me that it's the one part of your body that you can't lick.
I could.
Have a go then. You won't be able to.
I will.
Go on then.
Lick my elbow?
Lick your elbow.
Have you seen the size of my tongue?
You can't lick it. You've got to get right on that
Have
like,
you
the funny
seen
bone
the
bit.
size of my tongue?
No, I haven't.
I'm famous. Famous in certain places.
Go on then. Show me.
It's huge.
Go on then.
I was...
Is it making up for another part of your body?
No, possibly. Quite possibly.
Come on then, let's see the tongue.
And you see, you've got us onto body parts.
No, yes, it's me.
And look,
the lines are flashing.
If you're calling the show, we will get to the switchboard very shortly.
Yeah.
I can do this, which hardly anybody I know can do. In fact, I don't know anybody else who can do this.
Oh, tongue and nose. Oh.
Yeah. Did you see that?
That is long.
It's quite a long tongue, isn't it? It's a bit reptilian, really.
You won't be able to do your elbow, though.
Well, no, you're
See?
right. You're right, I can't.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll go and get the phone.
Oh, go on then. If you're phoning, she's coming. And thank you for your patience. I do appreciate your efforts. And to Cedric Durrant, who has emailed, I find it very fitting that you've played very superstitious for your break. Superstition, a sense of fear of the unknown to the point that someone manifests something to be afraid of. It sounds much like your show, actually. Is it coincidence or indeed propaganda that you send out over the airwaves? Hi Tide, text message. Hello Tommy, great to hear you on the radio. If it doesn't work out for you, you can always move to Manchester and be a tea-boy for James Stanage. Pam in Guildford. And Bert in Staines has texted, Tommy, what about Strictly Come Dancing, hosted by Bruce? How many times does the letter C crop up in that? Must be commie propaganda. And we've got somebody, the person who had texted previously to say you should be taken off air has texted back twice to say I was a first-time moaner. Tom, yeah, but we've still got your number, see? So worry all week long, see? Because I might phone you myself, on your mobile, you see? I might phone you, and you just won't know, it might be Tom ringing for a casual chat. Now, quick email from... let's have a look. Logan again. Logan Hainel has emailed from Ontario in Canada. He says, why is it you're so obsessed over the letter K and Star Trek? It's quite a compulsion with you to the point of mental delusion. I just want an answer, mate. If you can answer why there are so many Ks all over the key words in Star Trek, then I'll rest easy tonight. Actually, I'll rest easy tonight anyway. Easier than you, Logan, because you're going to be wondering yourself why. Because you can't explain it, can you? Either it's a massive coincidence or there's a reason for it. Yeah? I'll have a word with you after I've spoken to Alison. I mean, I'll continue your email after I've spoken to Alison, Logan. She's come down. You look cross.
Oh, no, I'm not cross
no,
at
not
all.
Cross. Okay.
No, it wasn't a whinger at all.
No, you sat down all sort of...
Oh, did I?
Yes,
I didn't mean to.
No? Okay.
It was Rose from Peacehaven
okay, cool.
on the line.
Yeah.
And she said that she loves the show.
That's nice.
Yes.
Is that it?
That's it.
Love
yeah, and she gets annoyed at people who whinge. Oh, but look, the lines are going again.
All right, well, you in and out.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I keep saying cool. But at least I say it properly. Vince Collier has emailed to say, thanks very much indeed for tonight's show. It's been exceptional. Appreciate it. Adam has said, I have to say your treatment of Chris was quite disgusting. No, it wasn't, Adam. You completely talked over him when he was trying to present a well-structured and, may I point out, completely accurate response to your points. No, Adam, wrong. What you're saying, Adam, and you don't understand yourself enough to realise this, what you're saying is, you like Star Trek, and anybody who rings up and says Star Trek's got all it takes must necessarily be right, even if they're talking rubbish. Okay? And Chris actually wasn't joining an argument up. And that's what I wanted, joined up arguments. You know, consecutive thought. and a conversation that depends on engagement rather than swapping over statements, which often don't overlap at all, which often actually have an enormous amount of daylight in between them. That ain't a conversation. You know, I know I'm on home ground, I'm on, you know, I've got the microphone and things, but I don't interrupt people, I don't cut people off. But people do need to be making some headway through their arguments. And James Burke has emailed, disagree with your Star Trek night views, and now I do an internet search and find that you have a very small... Yes, sorry James Burke. James, it's no good signing your emails anonymous, mate, because... Lots of people send emails into the show and they sign them anonymous. But when you get an email from somebody, it's got all the information you need about them on the list of waiting emails, you know. So, James Burke, you're not anonymous, pet. Bright or what? I'm sure he's very bright. And just refresh the emails. See what Alison's got for us. P.H. Tucker has emailed with a sort of a joke. Why do Kleenex sponsor Star Trek? Because they wipe out Klingons. It's been done before, but thank you anyway. So?
That was a call from Sir Geoffrey.
Sir Geoffrey?
Yes.
A complaint?
No, not a complaint.
Sir Geoffrey.
Sir Geoffrey. He says, in the light of tonight's show, next week he'd like the topic to be how to defend yourself against a maniac armed with a piece of fruit.
Ah, well, you know what that comes from.
Monty Python.
Yes. Are you a fan of Monty Python at all?
I am, but it's not a subject I'm an expert on. I certainly haven't.
But you knew that was a Monty
Python
Python sketch?
Yes, but more through hearing other people talk about it before. I've never actually seen the sketch.
Have you not?
No.
Well, they're taking the mickey out of self-defence, you know, and all those stupid martial arts that some men do, like kung fu, and they all tell you that their martial art is the ultimate martial art.
Yeah. They can kill you without.
And they also tell you that it instills great discipline.
Yes.
You know? And it's better than youngsters going around bashing up fish. No, not fish.
Fish.
Bus stops. No, that's what fishermen tell you. Fishermen tell you that fishing doesn't cause fish any pain, and that it's better than people going around being hooligans.
Right.
As if, therefore, the people who are fishing are sort of hooligans in waiting. As far as the fish are concerned, of course, they are hooligans anyway for what they're doing. No, it's a sketch about how ludicrous martial arts are, because they're all ludicrous.
I'm surprised you say that. I thought you trained as a
samurai is not martial arts.
It's very similar, isn't it?
It's a way of life. It's a philosophy.
Yeah, but the fighting
the ultimate
philosophy. I remember you telling us about it a few weeks ago, and that was all.
It ain't a martial art. You're killing people. I was taught to kill people with a knife. And funnily enough, yes, you do pull it out afterwards. In fact, I'm probably the only person in the United Kingdom who knows how to clean the blood off an Iaito.
How do you do that then?
Well, you don't touch it. You don't touch it. There are two ways of cleaning. It's not good radio to demonstrate it.
Just pop a quick wet wipe out of your bag and...
You can, but, well, there are grooves in it that are designed to take the blood away in an Iaito. And after you've used your Iaito to kill your enemy, you either hit sideways like that, and all the blood goes that way, or else, if it's been a really good kill, you do it much more ceremonially by up, and the blood goes off to the right and down by your feet, and then you can back in your scabbard.
The call's going again. Why the sudden rush at 10 to 1?
I don't know, it's 10 to 1. Shall we
grab it.
Alright, you do that. I've got some information for Southern Counties radio fans. We're coming to the end of this broadcast. You may well still be listening, hoping that there's going to be more revelations or resolutions to the Star Trek debate. That won't be happening, I don't suppose, this evening. I will refer you back to whatever internet devices you use to have your conversations about your beloved Star Trek. They're widely and well known. The BBC Southern Counties website will be able to kick you onto a couple of websites where you might be able to continue talking about or finding out about some of the things that we raised this evening. I just want to end the evening, as far as the Star Trek thing goes, by saying that I am genuinely a bit nervous about the vision of planet Earth and the universe 200 years from now, as it is portrayed by Star Trek, because I do feel it's a little bit narrow, and I hope that planet Earth, humanity, and the universe that humanity might be exploring is a little bit broader than it's shown up by Star Trek. But in the course of my research, I was amused to discover that it would be possible to put together an enduring but false urban myth linking the Ku Klux Klan and a cigarette company to Star Trek. To line one we go, we've got Tom.
Yes.
Who wants to have a chat about Star
Trek. Oh, my goodness me, why are you rubbishing Star Trek? It was a fantastic series. Now, we have white people on there sniffing things out of bowls.
Yeah.
Whoopi Goldberg made a wonderful appearance, of course.
Yeah.
But why are you relating this to black people? It was a fantastic series.
It was quite entertaining, but I was a bit worried to discover that an awful lot of people think it's significant.
Well, why not? Are we the only people in the world? Or are we looking for people?
That's nothing to do with what I just said. The significance is that it's got some notion of white supremacy running through it.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Well, how many black people are there running...
Just a minute. How many African nations have you known to fly all these spaceships around the world? Well, who was doing it? Let's face it, it's the Americans or English or Europeans.
No, but that's my point you're making.
They've got the money, haven't they?
Yeah, well, that's my point. You're making my point.
No.
You're making my point.
Yeah, but you're rubbishing the series. The series, in actual fact, was...
But you're making my point. Don't you realise that I'm making a point and you're coming on, you're going, no, 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 and you're making my point. My point is it's all Americans up there.
Oh, no, not in the series it wasn't all Americans.
Yeah, of course
we had Japanese, we had a... But all
There weren't any Japanese in it.
Yes, there was. It was Nakuro that sat on the thingy.
Nakuro that sat on the thingy?
She wasn't Japanese. She wasn't American.
You're well tooled up in the...
Oh, I'm a fantastic Star Trek fanatic.
No, you're not.
I am.
No, you're not.
Yes.
No, you're not. What's your favourite episode?
My favourite episode?
Yeah.
When you equate it with toilet paper, the Klingons.
That's not an episode,
the Klingons are stuck on the wall. And
I think 3 people have tried to do that joke this evening, and none of them have done it as badly as you.
Oh, I'm very sorry about that.
Not at all.
But I was on earlier today, actually, on Southern Counties. I was the garden expert. But no, you can't rubbish Star Trek. Can we have some more?
I'm convinced that it's going to lead to World War III.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And the thing is,
find out in the end, this is pioneering scientific television. We are probably fine. We are.
There isn't any pioneering television. For goodness sake! When you look at the other media, when you look at the written word, when you look at the internet, when you look at the cinema, when you look at the theatre, those are different media which are able to pioneer. But you tell me anything on television that was genuinely pioneering, and don't say Star Trek.
Genuinely pioneering?
Pioneering,
well,
yes.
I must say the Blue Planet, really, that is the only thing.
I know what you're talking about. Thank you very much for your call, though. We go to Brighton now, and Bernard, I believe, is our next caller on line 2. Hello, Bernard.
Oh, hello, Tommy.
Bernard.
I'm surprised to get through to you, as you're probably finishing fairly soon.
We are, so we both better crack on.
Okay, a couple of points.
Yeah.
One is in the original series of Star Trek, I believe that they had the very first kiss between a black actor and a white actor, which caused a lot of kerfuffle at the time, and probably implies that there wasn't a hidden racist agenda going on.
Well, I'm glad you raised that, because it's rubbish.
What is rubbish?
That Bill Shatner actually kissed Nichelle Nichols.
Why do you say it's rubbish? Because I saw a documentary on it where it showed the kiss.
Yeah, apparently it didn't take place. I'm just looking for my information on it. Apparently it never actually happened. They didn't allow it to happen.
Oh, well, it was mentioned on the documentary about Star Trek series.
Yeah. I think the theory is that they wanted everybody to think that they did something as groundbreaking as that. But it didn't actually happen.
And the other thing I wanted to say was that the Star Trek series that you're critiquing was of the 60s and probably was representative of various other programs that were around at the time as far as their attitudes.
Yeah, well, Bernard, you're missing an important point here. It was a vision of the future. It wasn't a vision of the 60s.
Yes, I know, but the ones that you call the grandchildren of it, which incidentally, why grandchildren, not children, like the TNG and the Deep Space Nine and whatever, they are made more recently and they show more recent attitudes.
Yeah, which of course is slightly ridiculous. An admission of the failure of the first series. And when you say slightly ridiculous, we've talked about this a little bit earlier on the show. I'm afraid you're not getting a genuine representation of some of this Earth's wonderful cultures on these spaceships. They're all acting like white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, even if some of them are black and even if some of them are Asian.
You haven't. You said yourself that you haven't seen many of the newer ones anyway.
I was watching one last night.
Like TNG and whatever.
Like Friends in space.
Yeah.
Shallow, puerile, irrelevant. They're all kids. It's a kids' show, man.
I take it you don't like science fiction, full stop.
I love science fiction, full stop. I like science fiction that's got some quality about it. I love your Star Wars, for example. That's fantastic.
And all the main characters in that are white Anglo-Saxons as well.
Well, like Chewbacca.
He's done up in a furry suit. You can't tell what colour he is underneath it.
And the robots?
They're androgynous.
And what colour's Darth Vader?
Really.
And what colour's Darth Vader?
The suit he's wearing is black. The actor underneath it was white.
The actor was black who played Darth Vader.
No, the actor who was in the suit of Darth Vader was the guy who used to do those Green Cross Code ads, and he is a big white guy.
His name's Dave Prowse.
Yes, and he's white. He's not black.
He wasn't the voice of Darth Vader.
He wasn't the voice, but
No.
he was an actual being walking around with the suit on.
Look, this isn't as puerile as about the number of white people in something, right?
Hmm. No,
you tell me why there are so many bloody K's in the keywords in Star Trek.
So you're just reading something in that wasn't there to be read in the first place.
I'm asking you the question. Don't you think it's a bit odd?
It's just a coincidence.
I think twice. I think whoa, coincidence. Twice is a coincidence. 3 times is maybe a coincidence. 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7, 8, 9 K's in the 9 keywords in Star Trek. 9 in the 9 keywords.
Is that a coincidence? Conspiracy theories, aren't you, Tommy?
Well, you work out what the odds are.
Well, they had more than 9 characters in Star Trek, and I'm sure they didn't all have K in their name.
The 9 keywords in Star Trek. We've been through it already on the show. I don't need to go through it with you again.
No.
It's worth thinking about.
Yeah.
And why the name Pike? He was
Why
the most.
not?
He was the most. The name Pike, the original captain on this silly show, happened to be. I'll tell you what it is, Bernard. It's this, mate. What I've done is put together, right, an original and actually quite watertight but ludicrous condemnation of Star Trek. And you guys who are fans of it can't do anything better than go, oh, what a load of nonsense. You can't actually construct a decent counter-argument to the ludicrous arguments that I've put forward that suggest that Star Trek is a vehicle for the Ku Klux Klan. All you guys can do is go, ridiculous, coincidence. And that is because you were brought up on puerile nonsense like Star Trek rather than reading some decent literature like me.
I read as well, Tommy. You're not the only person who reads books.
Well, it isn't showing, mate. What are you reading then? Jack and Jill, Sonny and Sammy and Happy Valley. What are you reading at the moment then?
At the moment, I'm reading an Alexander Kent book.
Never heard of her.
Him.
What's the best book? I know. What's the best book you've ever read then?
It's very difficult to say at best.
Shouldn't be.
Oh, not really, because I read a lot.
Well, what's the best book you've ever read then? Catcher in the Rye, To Kill a Mockingbird, L'Étranger by Camus.
Now, I'd say...
Le Gourmand by Fournier, perhaps, or something by Hemingway. Or what about one of the war books? Brideshead Revisited, perhaps, or his best, I think, The Loved One. Something by E.M. Forster, maybe. Or one of Jane Austen's classics.
I like Alistair MacLean, thrillers.
Oh, fuck, crying out loud, man. You like potboiler thrillers. That's not literature. Is it? Alistair MacLean? Petal.
Everybody has different tastes. Just because you like reading old books doesn't mean that other people can't read newer ones.
Well, when did Camus write L'Étranger, then?
Oh, God knows.
No, exactly. How many Nobel Prize-winning books have you read?
Nobel Prize? I don't think you're talking about Nobel Prize. That's the science. I'm sure you mean Turner Prize, don't you?
The Nobel Prize for Literature. I used to think they did one, but it's been refreshing finding out from you, Bernard, that they don't. On you go with your Alistair MacLean then, friend, and Star Trek. Good luck with all of that. I've enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I've got a chance to say goodnight to Ali, because we've hit up to Radio 5. Talk to you next week. In actual fact, just having a slight problem bringing you Radio 5, but if you just bear with me, I'll be able to flip you over to the ladies and gentlemen of Radio 5. Yeah, it's fine, Ali. We're just taking a moment before we get Radio 5 up. Here we go. Night-night.
First, here's the latest 5 Live News with Chandrika Chevley.
Up to 400 Sikhs have tried to storm a theatre in Birmingham in protest at a play which they claim mocks their religion. The play, called Bezti, which means dishonour, features scenes of sexual abuse and murder inside a Sikh temple. 5 police officers were injured in the struggle. Mohan Singh was one of the organisers of the demonstration outside the Birmingham Rep Theatre. He told 5 Live he was embarrassed by the violence.
Tommy Boyd on BBC Southern Counties Radio.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the show. Tommy Boyd here, and Alison Ferns over there.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well. How are
Had a
you?
good week? Yeah, I'm very well indeed, thank you.
I think I'm looking intelligent this evening.
Yeah, you got your contact lenses out.
Yes, got my new glasses on.
They work for me.
You think?
I always like women in glasses. I don't know why.
Oh, really?
I'm not going there because we've got a big agenda on the show tonight. We'll go to why I like women with glasses another time.
Good, we'll save that.
We've got something much less important than that to discover.
What's that then?
The truth behind Star Trek. Now, hold your horses. I know you're not a fan.
Oh, no, not at all.
I know it does nothing for you at all.
I was confused. Star Trek and Star Wars.
Oh, God.
Sorry, I do that. I've never watched either, and I get it all confused. Who's got the Klingons?
You're going...
Sorry, I'm being honest. I don't know.
And that's why, actually, you're going to be of great use during the next the next hour or more, or maybe a couple of hours. We'll see how far we get with this, because I have grown up with Star Trek. I think I saw all the episodes of the first series probably at least twice, because there wasn't a lot else on, and actually because I liked it, because it was great escapist fun, and it suited lads. I'm not at all surprised that girls couldn't quite see what all the fuss was about. But then what happened was I moved on and I became, I studied proper literature, Shakespeare and Salinger, and worked in investigative journalism, and I left it behind. But then my boys started to watch it. Well, not Star Trek, but the sort of latest incarnations, things called Andromeda and Deep Space Nine. You've never heard of them, have you?
I did. I've heard of Deep Space Nine because I once met someone at a party who used to go to Deep Space Nine conventions.
We won't be asking you any quiz questions tonight.
No.
Okay, but that's fine. But what you can do, I think, is be a very impartial mediator in this discussion. In other words, if you think that I've got it wrong, you say so.
Yeah.
And if you think that people who don't quite get my point about Star Trek...
Yeah, so what is your point?
Well, I'll get to that in just a second, because what happened was, my boys were watching these things, and they said to me, "Hey, Dad, this is great." And I said, "No, it's not. It's not as good as the original." The original was a very thoughtful, cerebral, intelligent, occasionally action-packed vision of a better future. A future where understanding and peace and care for all cultures, racial types, aliens, was extended by the powers that be, at least in the United Federation of Planets, which is where our boys were.
The United Federation of Planets.
Yeah.
This is geeky stuff, isn't it?
I enjoyed it when I was a teenager. It started up in the mid-60s, around about the time that rock music really got going, and it was all kind of part of that liberation of youth thing. But what I did was this, I revisited some of my old tapes. I've only got a few, I'm not sad. And I looked at these old Star Wars episodes all over again.
Yeah.
And realised what I was watching. And I realised that I wasn't watching a vision of the future in which all types of race, all types of gender, all types of age, all types of religion, cultural preferences were tolerated, if not indeed cherished. I was watching white supremacists in space.
What?
I was watching propaganda.
Do you think you're reading a little bit too much into it?
Absolutely not. You've got to remember that in the mid-60s, we were at the Cold War was at its height, and the United States was engaged in war in Vietnam.
Yeah.
I mean, the stakes were very, very high, and anything that could be used to advance their cause was put into harness. And this TV show got off the ground in the first place because the people who made it were able to persuade the studios, who didn't want to do sci-fi, that what they could actually do was show that in 200 years' time, the United States would have defeated Russia, the United States would have defeated China, and these were the two big arch enemies of the United States at the time.
Yeah.
But not only that, they would be continuing their fight against ethnic minorities in the form of the aliens, one of whom you've just mentioned.
What?
The Klingons. Please don't laugh.
I'm sorry, Tommy. I do think, I do think you're reading far too much into this.
Well, we will see. I'm quite happy to take calls on this from the many people who need to have the scales lifted from their eyes on just what Star Trek was. Now, I don't think Star Trek has done any enduring harm yet, okay? But when you look at recent American foreign policy, which has been that Iraq, quite simply, needed to be taught a lesson, needed to become a little bit more like America, needed to have elections, needed to conduct themselves in the way that Americans like to believe they conduct themselves. When you look at what their foreign policy has become, when you see how media-orientated it is, you realise that there must be an awful lot of young Americans in charge. There wasn't a Russian on the deck, and they were speaking American.
Again, true.
And the black lady was, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, the black lady was, let's face it, eye candy. Why was she 3 feet higher on the deck than everybody else? Why did they build a special bit so she was 3 feet higher?
Actually, I think you'll find she was on the same level as the rest of the crew.
No, because you couldn't see the rest of the crew's legs.
No, the rest of the crew weren't wearing miniskirts.
That's my point. Thank you.
Oh, well, at the same time, Gene Roddenberry said that whilst he did make a sex symbol out of the woman on the bridge, he made a sex symbol out of the all-white American captain, too. But speaking back to your point as regards...
She said she only got the job because... She said, Nichelle Nichols, I think her name is, she said she only got the job because she was having an affair with the creator of the series.
Well, I've yet to see that in print, that she's admitted to that, but...
Well, yeah, I have, but I see what your point is. That's not to say it's true. Okay.
But, I mean, returning back to your point about how they were led by a white supremacist, I think you'll find that in time since Star Trek has been shown, certainly there have been shows that people have been led by a Frenchman, Jean-Luc Picard, they've been led by a black man, they've been led by a number of different representatives.
Well, the most prominent black actor on the series plays a Klingon.
Who would that be?
Worf. Yeah.
Oh, so one of the most prominent black actors was the captain of Deep Space Nine. He was a black African-American man who was not afraid of his heritage.
you're getting into the sort of grandchildren of Star Trek now, and quite frankly, they don't have the same profile as the original series, which had a greater profile than the Next Generation. These things that are knocking around now, you know, it's like Friends in space.
Well, I mean, let's say then, obviously, that they were led by a white supremacist in your view on the original show.
I think I don't mean to interrupt, but that's not my point. They weren't led by a white supremacist. They were led by somebody who represented the American ideal of the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. And when you went around the Starship Enterprise, this was something that struck me. This is a vision of the future. And yet there were... I can't ever remember seeing a black crewman.
I can remember seeing multiple black crewmen, actually, in various positions. In fact, Captain Kirk was actually bossed around on a number of occasions by a member of the governing body of Starfleet, if you like, who was black.
Yeah, I don't remember that. You noticed it, did you?
I did.
Why did you notice it?
Because I realised what was happening on the show was that Gene Roddenberry was trying to make a point by putting in ethnic minorities. And let's face it, if Gene Roddenberry had put a black captain in command or some kind of person who wasn't representing, you know, a white American, if he tried to put an ethnic minority up there, the show would never have got on there.
Now you're getting interesting now, you see, because what you're saying is that there was some interference from external sources in the content of the show. Who were they?
I would say presumably network censors. People in America who censor TV programs before they go on the air.
I'm really grateful you called. I want to say this to you, keep listening, because I've got something to reveal in about half an hour that I think will get you thinking about the people behind the scenes working on Star Trek.
Okay, well, thank you for talking.
Thanks, Chris. 08459570057. He was a very nice man. Well done there, Alison, because you're doing two jobs here I need to explain to people listening, who are new to the show, which is that you co-present the show and you also produce it and you do the behind the scenes and you work your socks off, basically.
Yes.
Even though you were at a party until 3 o'clock in the morning last night.
Yeah, I did overdo it last night, but I'm feeling fine now.
You look great, yeah.
Thank you.
And the glasses are still working for me.
Good.
Yeah.
I tell you what, this is all new to me.
Yes.
I really just thought that Star Trek, if I'm honest, was just a programme for perhaps geeky people.
Well, geeky people like it, but that's not to say that it's just for them.
But I never realised all this other stuff.
My point, I think, hangs a lot on symbolism.
Yeah.
Metaphor. Hidden meaning. Symbolism in literature is an essential tool, isn't it? Everything has to represent something else.
Yeah.
And there's a great deal of symbolism in science fiction. For a whole load of reasons. Partly because it pulls you back into your own life. Otherwise, a piece of science fiction set 10,000 years in the future would be totally irrelevant, wouldn't it? Why should you care? It's got nothing to do with you. But if you populate your science fiction with symbols, metaphors, hidden meanings, messages for you about your life as you're living it now, your hopes and aspirations, your world as it might be in 10 years' time, never mind about 200 years' time, then it becomes relevant, even at a subliminal level. And it's the symbols and the metaphors in Star Trek that concern me. And I don't believe all of them were put there purely for entertainment purposes. And I'm very serious about this. Very serious. 08459570057 is the number. We'll take another tune in just a moment. John in Hailsham says, the world has gone mad. I find myself agreeing with T. Boyd. Ban Star Trek. Not because it's a threat to world peace, but because it's rubbish. Okay.
I kind of agree with John there a little bit.
All right. New listener Sophie here. I totally agree with you. The war in Iraq could definitely be a Star Trek plot. She says, this is Sophie, says, Alison, you need to watch some.
Well, I tell you what, I might go and watch some now just to see whether I agree with all this stuff. Honestly, I never realised. I mean, I've seen it on the TV, you know, but I normally just change channels.
The average
met
middle-aged Americans and Americans in the White House and the Pentagon who believe that the simple solutions to the kind of conflicts that occur in Star Trek are probably the best course of action in the 21st century.
No.
So my concerns are that the seed of thought that's been planted in the minds of the men who are now running the greatest superpower the world has ever known, okay?
Yeah.
That seed is that Arabs and Asians are people who need to be monitored, governments need to be monitored very carefully, and if they aren't behaving correctly, which primarily means in a subjugated way as far as the United States are concerned, then the United States swings to and arms its photon torpedoes. You don't know what I'm talking about now, do you?
What on earth are you on about?
There's so many parallels between the war in Iraq and a typical episode of Star Trek.
You think
I think
that George Bush has based his foreign policy on episodes of Star Trek?
Something along those lines. Certainly, it certainly helped the American people to support what in a sense has been a ludicrous television war. 08459570057. Listen, I'm going to address people listening across the south of England first of all and say that if you want to call the switchboard and join the conversation, please feel free. You can text us from inside the United Kingdom, 07786 20 70 70. I'll repeat those numbers in just a second. You can email us. My address is tommy.boyd@bbc.co.uk. If you want to be on the show, we will call you back, so we'll pay for the call, wherever you're calling from. This is for new listeners, because I know that a bit's gone out on the internet about what we're doing this evening, the discussion that we're having this evening. Bear in mind, it's primarily a current affairs discussion, but it's also big on media, and in particular, this gigantic family of enterprises, which is Star Trek. 08459570057 to get through to the switchboard now. Or, if you want to email me your telephone number and the point that you want to make, and it doesn't matter where you're listening to this on planet Earth, okay, we will call you back.
Planet Earth, you're getting into the whole Star Trek thing, aren't you? Wherever you are on planet Earth.
I've had it passed on to me that there are people who know us in 27 countries who are quite amused by the idea that, that we're going to be discussing this in this way. In this refined, civilised and cultural country that we are, and a lot of them are in the United States, and a lot of them have already said that they'd like to tell me just why I've got it all wrong. There's one other thing I want to add, and this is really important. It's now 10:10 p.m. GMT. I believe Eastern Standard Time it's 5:10 in the afternoon, and if you're listening Pacific Time, I believe it's middle of the afternoon, 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. The point I want to make is this: in 50 minutes or so it doesn't matter where you're listening, I don't have to tell you what time it's going to be, it's about 50 minutes from now, I want to lift the lid on some original research that has just been completed into an aspect of Star Trek which I think will, quite frankly, shock the majority of people listening, and certainly every single Trekkie who is listening, because it is quite mind-blowing. But when you confront people like Star Trek fans with a new piece of information, I've got a suspicion that they're going to say, well, we already knew that.
So where have you got this research from?
It's original. Totally original. Because bear in mind that for 15 years I was an investigative journalist, albeit working on slightly more meritorious problems, such as the Middle East, the Northern Ireland situation, and industrial strife in this country. So I know how to winkle out facts. I didn't think that I'd ever be spending some time winkling out facts about Star Trek, but boy have I got a couple of absolute Lulus. But I suspect that when they're confronted with this information, rather than say, yes, we're hanged by the neck until dead, the average Star Trek fan will say, well, we knew that. So, although this is going to be difficult to work for them, if you think you know what it might be that I'm going to reveal, email me in advance. Otherwise you will have heard it first here on this show, coming from the United Kingdom tonight. So go ahead. If you think you know what it is I'm likely to reveal, which is quite shocking, and I have to say unproven, but nevertheless very intriguing. I mean, it's unproven as in, did Lee Harvey Oswald shoot Kennedy acting alone? I think unproven. Did America go to the moon in 1969? I think they probably did, but, you know, it's kind of unproven. What I have for you in an hour's time is unproven in the same way, but I think it's going to make an awful lot of people want to go and do some original research, who think that Star Trek is just a bit of fun. I mean, one Star Trek site that I went to had this to say about the man who invented Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry. It said, Gene Roddenberry is a man whose contribution to the 20th century is greater than that of Martin Luther King and John F. Kennedy.
Dr. Sulu.
Mr. Sulu.
Mr. Sulu.
Dr. Spock.
Oh, sorry.
He's a paediatrician, Mr. Spock.
Right.
Dr. Bones.
Okay, right.
You don't need to know all the ins and outs.
George Takei, his name is,
George Takei, yes.
Takei, yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, I did pantomime with him.
Really?
Very nice man.
Pantomime. People listening in America go, what the hell? What kind of sexual practice is that?
Actually, I got a funny
story. Does that involve animals? We know what you Brits are like.
I've got relatives in America.
Yeah.
And I was explaining to them that I was doing the Southern Counties pantomime, and I said, oh, you know, if ever you would, they said, oh, would like to hear that. I said, yeah, it's on the, internet. You can listen in now,
Okay.
and you can hear the pantomime if you want.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, well, how does that work on radio? And I thought, well, is she being a bit thick? I thought, well, you know, as anything would work, you just go online and you can listen into the radio station, you can hear it. She thought a pantomime
Oh, I see.
was a mime.
A mime.
She thought they were going to be playing out a mime on the radio.
Yes.
And that's where the confusion had set in.
Couple of emails that have come in. Can I just... Is she sorted out now?
She is.
Good. Whereabouts in America does she live?
Chicago.
Beautiful. Wonderful place. This says, hi Tommy and Alison, my name is Tim Brazil. I am the founder of, he mentions a Star Trek, I guess, website. He says, we are a group of dedicated fans that helped keep Star Trek Enterprise on the air last season, and we're working hard to keep it on this season. Our website has had over 200 million hits in the last 8 months. The actors acknowledge us publicly as well. I've been a long time Trek fan, and I would love to get in on the debate. I think you're misguided on Bush, as well as numerous other thoughts. And there's a telephone number here. It looks like Tim has mailed us from somewhere in the United States. So can we put him on the list?
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Tim. We may well have time to get to you this evening. Sam Davis has emailed, if you're going to produce evidence to link Star Trek with neoconservatism, sorry, I just turned on, this may not be your contention, then you have to ask the question, is Bush a realist? Many believe he is. And if so, is the Star Trek Federation a realist organisation? In fact, it is an international organisation, he says. If so, then how do you reconcile the realist belief that the state and anarchy are the sources of power and the state will override international stellar institutions in matters of the state's welfare and primarily the state's survival? This is somebody called Sam. Do you see what we're up against here?
People are obsessed,
Does
aren't
that email give you some idea of the kind of, what shall I say to be kind, level of involvement that some people have in Star Wars? Ryan O'Neill, must be another one, has emailed, Tommy, you really could not be more wrong when drawing a parallel between Star Trek and US policy post-September the 11th. The most recent series of Star Trek's latest incarnation, Enterprise, featured a year-long plot which was described as Star Trek's 9/11. Now here we go into the minutiae of the thing, and I'm going to largely steer clear of the minutiae. I'm interested in overviews, but nevertheless, Ryan, thank you for that, and I will read your email in full during the next song. Greg has emailed from Coventry. He's 15. He says, I agree with your co-host that you're definitely... Co-host. I like that. I like that. I do like that. It kind of beefs the whole thing up, doesn't it, really? Greg goes on, that you're definitely reading far too much into the subject. I myself could be called a Trekkie, but I know that you should take a certain perspective on the series. I personally believe that the whole franchise is as harmless as any other global franchise. Until now, I'm totally bewildered in how you believe it will cause World War III. But I admit it has made a very big impact on the world, but only as far as the social aspect. To say it has affected the political workings of the world is a bit far-fetched. I look forward to hearing more of your arguments and to see if your take on the franchise is plausible. And Greg has also given us his telephone number. We will be absolutely discreet with telephone numbers, as we are with all telephone numbers that are passed on to us at the BBC to call you back. We do this so that we can save you money, and also it's the best way of ensuring that you're who you say you are. From then on, you're free to say what you want to say, as long as it's clean and not in any way libelous. And so that's what we're going to do this evening, yeah? Let's talk to somebody from the United States, shall we?
Okay, do you want to forward me those emails that you've had sent to you? And then I can
I will do that.
Call.
Whilst I am enjoying one of my favourite Christmas tunes. Did you ever see the Snowman cartoon?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, you're not going to play Walking on the Air, are you?
Well, evidently not now. No, I was there. Here it starts, but what, you don't want it?
Not really.
You really don't want Walking on the Air?
It's really not one
What would you rather have? Stevie Wonder? Ah, come on, let's give this a whirl, shall we?
It's Alid, isn't it? Oh, he's going to hit there. Oh, he's there.
Have you seen him lately?
Yeah, on Strictly Come Dancing.
Yeah.
He was the contestant on that.
He wouldn't get served, would he, still?
How old is he, actually?
33.
Is he?
I don't know. Okay, Alid, it's quite enough of that. We've definitely got the gist. Merry Christmas to you and yours. Let's cross to Tampa, Florida. What a wonderful part of the world, and say good evening to Michael Hinman, who's on line 1. Hi, Michael.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. It's nice to talk to you.
Yeah, it's great talking to you. Been listening to the show a little bit, so...
Now, you're a man who knows his Star Trek.
I don't know if I know...
See what I'm up against.
Well, I think people do get a bit obsessive about Star Trek, don't they?
Yeah.
But if they want to have their little bit of fun, why are you trying to ruin it for them? You know, I just think you're reading too much into it. I think it is just a bit of harmless fun,
I'll go through
really.
it with you bit by bit, stage by stage, and I know that there's an awful lot of people quite high up in the Star Trek hierarchy. Even, I believe, the Roddenberry family themselves are being kept in touch with the way this debate is going on in England this evening. But I'll take you through it, and you tell me if it's nonsense. And you tell me if you agree, a little bit later on, when we've uncovered some new facts, that Star Trek might just be a threat to world peace. Yeah?
I think it's a bit strong.
All right, okay.
Star Trek is a threat to world peace.
It'll be the cause of the Third World War.
What?
No, you're getting married soon. You want to have children. You want to have family. You want the world to be a happy place.
Yeah.
You don't want the sky to be lit red with the exhausts of intercontinental ballistic missiles flying across your house, hopefully. Landing on your house, let's hope not. But that is the future. If we don't pay vigilant attention to absolutely every aspect of anything that might be a threat to peace. That's what I'm saying. Okay?
So you want to see Star Trek banned?
Yeah. Banned. The whole thing taken away. Gone.
I wouldn't have thought you were someone that was for censorship in that way.
Well, as the evening unfolds, would you, I'm not making any comparisons between Star Trek and fascism, but would you have banned Mein Kampf?
I just think it's just Star Trek.
Would you have banned Mein Kampf?
I just think that, I mean, I've never watched a whole episode.
Would you have banned Mein Kampf? Or as the gay guy, I believe, in the producers believes it's actually called Me in Camp F.
I'd have banned Me in Camp F.
Me in Camp F. Okay.
I just don't think you can compare the two things.
We'll see. A reminder of our contact details, 08459 570057. That's the main line through to the switchboard. You can text us. I don't know how you do this if you want to do it internationally, but for UK citizens, 07786 20 70 70, 07786 20 70 70. But I think an important source of contact this evening is going to be the email system and the internet. So my address once again is Tommy, T-O-M-M-Y, Boyd, B-O-Y-D, at bbc.co.uk. I just don't know what to do with myself. That's Dusty Springfield on BBC Southern Counties Radio with myself, Tommy Boyd, and Alison Ferns. And this evening we'll be travelling all over the place with our conversation, but it will, the main theme, which we will stay with, is Star Trek and why it really is about time that we put a stop to the whole thing and banned it, or at least see it for what it is. We've got, you can call the show 08459 570057, or if you'd like to comment on the show, you can either send me an email telling me what you think, or you can send me an email with your home phone number or mobile phone number, and we will call you back and put you on the show. If you're new to this radio station and show, it is a very gentle experience. Nobody interrupts anybody. Nobody talks over anybody. Everybody is allowed to say exactly what they want to say, and nobody cuts anybody off. And Chris is our first caller, and he's in Leeds this evening. Hello, Chris.
Hi, Tommy. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Yourself, sir?
Yeah, not too bad for a Saturday evening, thank you.
Good. What's your take on Star Trek, then?
Well, to be honest, Tommy, I think that Star Trek has been a very beneficial thing for society. I mean, you've branded it, certainly from what I can see from your website and from your previous shows, as something that's largely irrelevant, but there are a number of public figures who have been major contributors to society that have said that Star Trek has inspired them to get where they are today.
Oh, really? I did not know that, such as?
Well, I mean, it's obviously not someone who was inspired at an early age, but someone who said it was the continuing inspiration to him was Dr. Martin Luther King, who was obviously the leader of the civil rights movement. Leading quantum physicist, Professor Stephen Hawking, another gentleman who says that Star Trek inspired him as a child to grow up and do what he did. Dr. Mae Jemison, who was the first non-white woman into space, who has been a philanthropist and a spearheader of charities in third world countries, has said that, again, what she did was in large part thanks to encouragement from Star Trek.
Well, I'm not surprised that a cosmologist and somebody who went up in space as a passenger thought that Star Trek was pretty good. I'm surprised Martin Luther King was a fan.
I think it's because Martin Luther King looked in the 60s, show you watch yourself, at the bridge of the Enterprise and saw, I mean, well, as you said earlier, you said that you believed that what was shown was China and Russia being subjugated by the US, and that was the future that was shown on Star Trek. Well, in fact, Star Trek never made mention of that, but did show an African woman on the bridge of the Enterprise, a black woman, a Chinese person at a time when China obviously was an enemy, and a Russian gentleman at the height of the Cold War. So I believe that...
Yeah, but they were being bossed by a WASP, a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, an all-American boy. He was in